Yo, can we agree that that's the best intro ever? Like, it's just the intro goes crazy.
Pretty saucy.
It's pretty saucy. You don't think it's saucy? You think it's saucy?
I think it's pretty good.
I think it's pretty good. Jonah, what's going on, man? Nice to see you, man. It's been like
Nothing
24
much. I
hours
was just
since we saw each
arguing
other.
with Gianmarco about January 6th. Like we were just yelling at each other. So I'm a little
Wait.
hyped up right now.
Can't wait for us. I
So,
miss
like you're in a much calmer state than I am right now. I was like yelling at him, and he wasn't yelling. He's so polite.
Wait, so y'all was like going in.
I'm so much more of an asshole than him, but like it was very good.
Yeah, I respect that. Today has been how do I say this respectfully? Today has been a rough day. Like from a health standpoint, I felt like dog trash all day. And so yeah, it's gonna be fun tonight. I think we're gonna go into it. I'm excited to do the recap. I'm glad you guys were fighting and you guys were getting all of the juices rolling. And let's talk about it. I want to go into what happened last night. I want to talk about people's views. Here's like full transparency. I did not have the chance to do a huge amount of research this morning while I was doing some other stuff. I was able to re-listen to the first half of the debate. That's the extent of the follow-up research that I've done. I'm down to do some research up here while we're up here tonight, like do some fact checking, kind of get a feel for it. I got to admit, bro, my view of things slightly changed having re-listened to it because I realized how much I missed yesterday, paying attention to the chat, looking for the podcast, because I was listening to it on devices.
In my direction, or just more pro-Trump? I'm
curious. I'm completely a liberal now. Like what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a pause halfway through so I can scream unnecessarily for no reason whatsoever.
Monetarily, I need you to stay a conservative. For the future of this podcast, you can't become a liberal.
Yeah, no, that makes sense.
It would just fight that never ends.
Yeah, no, that makes sense. So yes, we can talk about our feelings at some point, whether or not I'm a liberal. Bro, we're gonna talk about that link that I sent you, bro.
Wait, hold on, sorry, I interrupted you. Like what changed your mind? Like in what way did you change your mind?
Trump did better than I thought the first round. Like yesterday.
You know what's hilarious?
What?
I rewatched parts of it, and I think he did worse than I thought. So maybe we're just confirming our own biases.
Thing, bro. We have to acknowledge the fact that you're coming from a position of mental incapacity.
You said even more bullshit things that I didn't notice the first time.
Yeah, here's the thing, bro. Like you aren't really coming from a great place intellectually in the first place, right? So that's gonna factor into your perspective. Okay, so hold on. Like we got dogs going. Can y'all hear these? Can you guys hear these dogs?
Barely.
Barely? Okay, so it's not bad. So what I want to do, like, let's do some fact checking tonight. Let's get people's opinions on stuff. And let's see what we thought about how things went yesterday. What about you, man? You did some things, you re-listened to it. Like, what has changed in your mind?
I just re-listened and I was just like, dude, this guy's not answering any goddamn questions. He's just talking his talking points. That was like literally it the entire time is how I felt, where I'm like, bro, that wasn't the goddamn question. What are we talking about here? Like we're just gonna say whatever we really want to be saying right now. It's like, and we're not gonna like actually listen at all. That was one thing that I noticed. The other thing was like, I realized I'm so used to Trump lying that I was just letting him slide with shit yesterday, where I'm like, wait a minute, no, that was a fucking lie. Like, that's just like not true. Right?
Yeah,
like,
but here's the thing.
You guys correct if I want to be charitable, but like he's just saying things that are just like not true.
Yeah, but here's the thing. A lot of time the left has this illogical misconception that because you disagree with someone, it's a lie. Right? Or because they didn't answer it the way you wanted it, that he didn't answer it. Right. So for example, you were trying to explain to me that, oh, you just evaded the question regarding what would you veto a bill on abortion?
100% evaded that question.
He answered
100%. I'm gonna die. Now that I re-listened to it, I'm gonna die on that hill. He 100% evaded that question completely.
So what you're saying is you're willing to kill yourself and end your life for Donald Trump.
What did I say? Did I just
you
say
said you're gonna die on the hill? So I just took it to the extreme.
Oh, I meant that metaphorically. No, I'm not gonna kill myself.
Okay. I just wasn't sure. Okay. I mean, you never know, right? Like maybe it's the emotions of the left that that we're concerned with. Let's talk about it, bro. Let's talk about the lies. Let's talk about the lies in the event. But here, let me ask you a real question. Like, jokes aside, do you think Kamala did not evade her answers? You don't think she did
Some of
the
them,
thing that you accuse?
but like Trump evaded every single one. That I realized that she evaded some of them.
I agree with
Right?
Shauna.
That's my
Which
sister.
one of your
Sister's in the
this is your
chat.
sister?
This is my
Wait, hold
sister.
on.
She called us last night because she wanted to be. I think she wanted to watch the debate with me, kind of. But I was.
You should have had her come on a podcast.
I should, but she's on it now. She was like texting me. It's like,
how
I want
does
to know
she
what
feel
you thought
about your reel today? How does she feel about that? Did she see it?
I highly doubt she saw it. She loves my reels. She thinks I'm hilarious.
She's your sister. She kind of has to.
She doesn't actually. She thinks I'm.
Tell the truth, Jonah. Who's smarter, you or your sister?
She's pretty damn smart. I'll give her that.
That's how Kamala Harris answered all of the questions last night, by the way, guys. This is what we're talking about.
You don't think I'm going to give a political answer with my sister? Kamala gave political answers. I'm not going to lie. Like, she's a politician. You guys just give so much goddamn credit to Trump, where it's like, dude, he's just also such a fucking politician. I was yelling about Gianmarco with this. I'm like, bro, you think Trump is not part of the establishment at this point? He literally is the entire opposition to the liberals. Like, he owns that entire fucking party. It's just, anyways, we can get into it. I got really riled up by Gianmarco.
Saucy tonight. I got riled up by Gianmarco. You know what? You know my one regret, Jonah. Here's my one regret. My one regret is that I did not have more time today to do research against your biased research.
I did 45 minutes. I was like, I just can't come with nothing because Gianmarco was spinning facts in our WhatsApp chat. So
here's the thing: Gianmarco's a cowarde, and he won't say nothing live on a podcast. So he's gonna have all kinds of facts that both you and I are lacking, and he just won't share them. What he's gonna do is share freaking videos that we can't watch because we're on a podcast, and they'd be like, "Oh, guys, I put the information in the chat," and then it's like, "Well, bro, it didn't help." That was my attempt at impersonating Gianmarco. That was not a good attempt.
Okay, so how do we want to do this? Gianmarco's idea was we just rewatch certain parts of the podcast. Is that what you want to do?
I don't care. Let's bring it. Let's rewatch it. There's a couple things I want to rewatch. There's something I watched this morning that I do want to share. It's probably like 3 minutes long. That talks about polling. That paints a narrative. Let's go into the fact checking. If you did some fact checking, I would love to see it, guys. If you guys are hanging out with us in the chat today. You did bias fact checking. I appreciate your integrity.
Completely biased fact checking because Gianmarco was doing bias fact checking, and I'm like, all right, well, I'm going to bring the other side then. So I did not fact check Kamala at all. I only fact checked Trump. Just FYI,
guys. If you're hanging out and you fact checked anything, please share what you fact checked. Jonah, what did you hear up to this point? What do you know? How do you feel?
You want my biased fact checking?
I want your biased fact checking.
Okay. So I'll start with, he was basically saying Democrats are okay with killing live babies at one point.
Okay.
Just not true. I challenge someone to find a Democrat who's like, once the babies are born, it's okay to kill them. Just bullshit. I'm sorry.
That's not a fact check. That's just a statement, Jonah.
What do you mean? He stated
that
Democrats believe that it's okay to kill babies after they're born.
Correct. And then I referenced to you the one thing that I did hear, and I prefaced this yesterday. I'm far from an expert on the topic, but I have heard of multiple scenarios where there is literally a device that will extract the infant upon birth, and they will terminate the life of the baby. And I believe, and again, don't quote me on this, I've heard of multiple stories on this.
Still in the belly, or is it a born baby?
It is half out, and the argument is that because it's not like, okay, do you know how babies are born, Jonah?
No, I'm just saying. I want to be very specific. We're saying there's
a lady part, and then there's a baby, right?
Are you saying that the head is? You're saying that they're saying because the head is out and then the body isn't, that then they can.
That is correct.
Okay, I want to fact check on that, and I want to say, if that happened, then it's like it happened like once. I'm willing to bet. I'm call bullshit that happens regularly.
But you don't know.
And two, no, I do know, because abortions in the third trimester, less than 1%. They track this shit. There's things called data.
What's the number that you're referring to as what's less? No, less than.
You want me to bring this up?
Yes, bring it up, bro.
Less than 8. Okay. All right. I will show you this shit.
Show it to me.
How many? You want me to share my screen? You guys want to see my little research?
Hide your feet pics. Your feet pic subscriptions.
Well, no, we're promoting that.
Onlytoes.com.
How many abortions happen in the third trimester in America? Pew Research, are they biased?
I have no idea, but they're recognized, so we'll go with that.
Where is it? I need third trimester.
There you go. Onlytoes.com. Subscribe. Jonah needs to pay for his.
Was their third abortion? How about? God damn it!
Relax, dog. Bro, you see this one, right? Jamarco shared something. Look at you trying to find information and can't.
I hate you people, dude. I did not have time to do the research. I've read this like several different times.
No, I'm good. I'm good with the fact that you did do the research. I just wanted to be noted that you were overwhelmingly confident about the obviousness.
I have seen this before. I have seen this data before. I promise you, I have seen this data before. This is CDC, which you guys hate, but you know what? Fuck you. The occurrence of third trimester induced abortion was 4.3 per 100,000 legal abortions. So you want to do the math on the percent on that? If you turn that into a percent, it's like 0.043. If you think the CDC is bullshit, oh, this might be Georgia only. Hold on, never mind. Wait a minute. What is this? Wait.
I realized how I could have beat you in the evolution. I could have just let you talk in circles and realize that you were proving yourself wrong.
Oh my God. Just give me abortion data. Like, God damn it. Like they have data on this, and I've seen this like 1,500 fucking times. I didn't have the study with me right now. Third. Okay, none of this is talking about the trimesters. Okay, this is going to be really boring, but I'll find this for you next time, right? I need American abortion statistics.
Jamarca, if you could do us the favor and continue to stack viable data such as the video that you just shared. We can have Jonah.
Okay, so this is CDC reproductive health abortion surveillance findings and reports. Nearly all abortions in 2021 took place in early gestation, 93.5%. Smaller number of abortions, 5.7%, 14 to 20 weeks, which is the second trimester, and even fewer, 0.9%, were formed at greater than 21 weeks of gestation. So, I mean, we can literally go into the data. This is for 2021. I don't know if they've released the data for 2022 and 2023 yet, but Jonah, there you go.
Can you go into the private chat? And, well, I'm going to send you a couple links that Jamarco's sending.
This is a TikTok, just FYI. You want me to watch a TikTok? Is the TikTok going to refute the CDC, and we're gonna be like Jonah's owned? Is that what we're doing?
Do you think you sound smart right now when you say stuff like this?
Like this comes to our truth thing. Do you think TikTok is a reliable source?
Watch the video, Jonah. Just hit play and turn up the volume. Are you sharing audio? I think you got to share.
I am. Can you not hear it?
The tab. No, I don't think you're sharing audio in your share. Yeah.
Unfortunately for...
Can you hear that?
Yep, perfect.
Okay, hold on. You will watch this random dude on TikTok.
During the ABC debate, two of the participants, otherwise known as the moderators of the debate, made the false claim to Donald Trump that there is nowhere in the United States where abortion is legal up until birth. Unfortunately for ABC, this is their own graphic, which clearly shows, if you'll read right here, the states in dark green have no restriction based on gestational age. There were a lot of lies in that debate, especially from the moderators that were participating in it. So throughout today, I'll be addressing as many as I can.
No, but that's not what I'm saying. There are places in America that allow it up to the third trimester. I'm talking about after it's born also.
Bro, to be clear, what was refuted last night? What was debated? What was refuted last night? What was fact checked by reliable ABC? That Trump stated that they want to have the right to terminate babies up to 9 months, even can technically afterwards, right? They said that's not true. You're affirming that's not true, but the
No,
same
that's not what I'm
ABC
talking
that
about.
fact
No,
checked that,
that fact is true. There are certain states where they allow
then
it
he
up
did
to a
lie.
certain.
Why are we then? So then Trump was
Can
right,
you
and we
listen
got
to
to
me?
give
Listen to what I said was a lie. He said Democrats even want to allow abortions after the baby is born. That's after the gestation period. Do you want to just watch that part again? Like, let's just watch that part again.
Let's
Let's
do it. Pull it up.
let's stop.
Pull it
Hold on.
up,
We're gonna
pumpkin.
pull it up. We're gonna pull it up, pumpkin.
Pull it up, Poppy.
Okay, hold on.
You need to teach me how to get my hair to look like yours, bro.
Kamala.
Did you just call her Kamala?
Kamala. Also, to reiterate, he also did claim that Democrats want it where it's legal for up to the third trimester. And to reiterate, that is a true statement. Some Democrats do want that. I don't agree with that, but I just want to put it out there. That's not the fact I'm talking about right now.
Okay.
So just FYI, I'm going to make that abundantly clear.
FYI, everybody.
We got to find the abortion. Topic 2, abortion. Okay, hold on.
One in the chat, if you guys think that Jonah just looks
I want to turn to the issue
strapping.
of abortion. President Trump, you've often touted that you were able to kill Roe v. Wade. Last year, you said that you were proud to be the most pro-life president in American history. Then last month, you said that your administration would be great for women and their reproductive rights. In your home state of Florida, you surprised many with regard to your 6-week abortion ban because you initially had said that it was too short. And you said, quote, I'm going to be voting that we need more than 6 weeks. But then the very next day, you reversed course and said you would vote to support the 6-week ban. Vice President Harris says that women shouldn't trust you on the issue of abortion because you've changed your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential.
Okay. So do you see what I'm saying here? What I'm refuting is the fact that he's inferring that there are Democrats, that even maybe most Democrats, even some Democrats, believe that it's okay to kill the baby after it's born.
Wait. You're saying, say that again. You're saying what about some or most Democrats?
Okay, let's just listen to this part again, because I don't need to restate exactly what he said. Let's just listen to it again. Hold on. Listen to it one more time.
Your position so many times. Therefore, why should they trust you?
Well, the reason I'm doing that vote is because the plan is, as you know, the vote is they have abortion in the 9th month. They even have, and you can look at the governor of West Virginia, the previous governor of West Virginia, not the current governor, who's doing an excellent job, but the governor before, he said the baby will be born and we will decide what to do with the baby. In other words, we'll execute the baby. And that's why I did that, because that predominates, because they're radical. The Democrats are radical in that. And her vice presidential pick, which I think was a horrible pick, by the way, for our country, because he is really out of it. But her vice presidential pick says abortion in the 9th month is absolutely fine.
So the part that I'm talking about is just that middle part where he's like, Democrats are radical about that. Now, if you want to be insanely fair, we can argue about whether he means if that is the 9th month or the fact that Democrats believe.
I don't understand. We've established that that's accurate. We just put up ABC News information that states that there are states that agree with that. So what are you?
There's no state that says you can kill a baby after it's born. Not a single one.
Okay.
What you said, what we just watched, was up to the 3rd trimester where the baby is still in the belly.
Okay. Point number 1, to be clear. Sorry. If we're talking about
way too much before this,
No, take it. No, bro, I need you to keep this energy. Keep the energy. I'm here for this energy, pumpkin.
Today. I'm getting crazy.
It's good. No, the people want to see you saucy. Saucy Jonah is the best Jonah. So here's my question, right? Do we agree or disagree that 9 months, abortion at 9 months, is something that Democrats are trying to pass or have already approved or have accepted?
Some do, correct.
Okay.
That wasn't the fact. You asked me what fact was I.
I'm just going to the next step. Have you heard or can you say that no Democrats have ever made any comments about after birth?
No, I do not believe any single Democrat, and I looked up this New Jersey governor afterwards. I didn't write down the research. We'll have to talk about it. This New Jersey governor does not believe in killing babies. There is no fucking Democrat that says it is okay to kill babies once they are born. I am sorry. This is just not a thing.
First of all, here's where you and I are differing. I have said multiple times something very similar to what you have said, except we're saying it differently. Here's the summary of what you and I both know about that topic, is that we don't know. That's the summary takeaway, Jonah. I don't know if there is a lawmaker that has approved post-birth or partial birth abortions.
No, I do know. There is no state where it's legal to kill a baby after.
You don't know that.
I do know that. Look it up. There is no law that says you can kill a baby after it's born.
Right here, guys. Right here. This is where I believe the biggest issue in politics is. These Democrats and Republicans, it's right here. It's because, Jonah, you're associating your emotions with your belief system. And you act like you actually can plausibly present the idea that because you believe it should be true, that means it's factual. And everybody who questions your belief is a fucking idiot. And that's just not how facts work, bro. You have admitted, without admitting, you don't know if partial birth abortion is a thing. You have admitted that you don't know for sure that there are no lawmakers that are presenting partial birth abortions. To be clear, a partial birth abortion could very easily, arguably, be presented as abortion after the baby is born. All of these things are
partial birth abortion. I don't consider after the baby.
If the baby is half out of the womb, would you consider that baby alive or not?
That's complicated. Probably. I'm not pro, first off, I'm not pro abortion in the third trimester. I actually do think that should be illegal, right? I'm just fact checking here. I want to know, there is no state with a law that says you can kill a baby after it's born. This is just not true. I already know this. I've looked this up.
No, you don't know this. This is the thing, bro. You're assuming it's true because you think it sounds outlandish.
Partial birth, if you include that into if you count that as post-birth,
no. The baby is alive at that point, period. So that qualifies for Trump's description. This is just the English language,
post-birth, bro. Let's just be clear with our terms. Post-birth means the birthing process is done.
Okay.
That sounds like a mid-birth abortion. That's what I would say. A mid-birth abortion, I do not know about that. There might be some states where that is illegal. I don't know. I do know once that baby is fully fucking out of the vagina and out of the uterus, you cannot kill it purposefully. Period. I'm sorry. Fact check me on it. I'm gonna die. I'll die on this hill.
You can die on that hill. It's better than dying in that doctor's office.
Now, partial birth, let's say it's halfway out. I don't know. There might be some crazy liberal states that think that's okay. I personally don't think that's okay. I think third trimester babies, unless it's an insanely crazy circumstance, should probably be illegal. That's my personal belief, right? We're just fact checking right now.
Exactly. And that's my point. But we're not fact checking. I'm fact checking. You're justifying based on how you feel about a topic. That's the difference here. Here's the thing, bro. We are, I don't know, whatever, show whatever you want. Here's my point, bro. Here's my point to all of this. The topic on what is right or wrong around the abortion, I think we should have a whole show on that. And I want to have people who maybe have more experience or education on that topic to speak on that. But as it relates to Trump's comments, people, they tried to fact check him on something that they cannot actually factually prove is untrue. And one could argue that a baby who is half out of the womb, whose life is terminated, and it's still called an abortion, could be saying that after the baby's born. That is a plausible conclusion to draw from what he means. And it sounds like you kind of could potentially agree with that. So I think
if that's what he means, and first off, I can do the research. I'll do the research on if this partial birth thing is real or just fake news. I don't know if that's fake news or not. That might be crazy enough for Democrats to do it. I have already looked up though that once the baby is fully out of the vagina, it is freaking done. It's
But
funny
you
because
can't.
my sister's watching this. We get into heated debates, but she's more liberal than I am, so it's like the opposite type
It's
of
the
thing.
opposite side.
Yeah, like
And
I'm
she
the
likes seeing me
conservative to
sauce it.
her, and
I
she's
already
gonna
like
watch
your
this. She's
sister
gonna
more than I
watch.
like you, just to be clear.
She's gonna watch this and be like, "Wow, never mind. Jonah's actually incredibly liberal," and I'm gonna be like, "Yes, Shauna, I agree with you on like 90% of shit." Anyways, okay, you want me to go through more facts? Because
Well, here's the thing: you have said repeatedly that you know for a fact and you found the data, but you haven't been able to present that data.
You want me to present it right now? Is there?
I wanted you to present it 15 minutes ago.
Any state that allows
Richard said, "Watch the video." Which video,
kill
Richard?
the baby?
Which video is Richard referring to? I want to know what video he's referring to.
Okay, I'll show you this. This is Politico. I don't know if you guys like them or not. No clue. This was from DeSantis. This wasn't even about the debate. Just in some liberal states, you can actually have post-birth abortions. It's just like, this is just like not true at all. Like, it's just so crazy to me. It's just basically something they've repeated. It's just like I don't even know what to say, because it's like I have to, because you have to find, there's no laws that says you can do that. It just is murder, right? So it's just like not a thing at all.
Bro, do you realize, are y'all hearing Jonah right now? This is why you have said you know for a fact repeatedly, and then every time I ask you to present facts, you go back
you're making me show you something. You're making me show a negative. I can show you the law on murder. Do you want me to show you the law on murder? There's no law that it doesn't like say, like it's a negative that you're asking me to prove right now. So there is no law that says you can murder post.
Okay. All right.
birth.
You're doing, just to be clear, first of all, Jonah, I love you. Second of all, Richard, re-share the link because it didn't come through. Third of all, Jonah, you're just like I've seen circles. But Jonah might have, I don't know, bro. You're talking in circles, like you're just doing a horrible job at presenting your point, and I think it's because
so what would I show you to show you that it's illegal to?
You don't in fact have a point.
All right, what would I show you to show you that it's illegal to kill babies in every single state?
No, what you're trying to do is state that what he said isn't true to confirm the fact that these people said that it wasn't true. However, you can't find information stating that. Have you looked to see if there's any information supporting it? This is my point, Jonah. If you continue to try to prove your point,
what can I show you to prove?
Go to your WhatsApp. Go to WhatsApp. Nothing, because what you're saying is probably not true.
Okay, so I can't prove anything anyway.
I don't know. Here's the difference between me and you. I sent a picture in WhatsApp.
Want me to go to WhatsApp? What's in WhatsApp?
Share. I tried to share the picture in the chat. I can't. Can you share your screen and show this picture? Let's read this picture.
Which one? There are several pictures in the chat.
The
Which one
very most recent one, the very bottom one from Associated Press. Do you believe in Associated Press?
Do I believe in them? I don't know how to share this. I don't know how to like.
You're gonna have to just share your screen, bro. Unfortunately,
well, it's on my phone. You mean I don't have WhatsApp?
Oh, you don't have WhatsApp? Okay, I'll do it.
So, or it has to update, I guess. If you. Here, hold on. I'll take it. I can take it and put it in. Gianmarco, help us out. Put it in the private chat.
Yeah, I don't think you can share pictures here, though. That's the thing. I don't know that you can.
Well, I can put it on my screen. I can just read what it is. So, federal data suggests that very few U.S. babies are born alive as a result of a failed abortion. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention reported 143 deaths between 2003 and 2014 involving infants born alive during attempted abortions. So that's not what I'm talking about. Are you saying, is that what we're talking about? Do you count a failed abortion as a birth?
But here, you got to read between the lines, Jonah.
Okay.
How far along is the baby if they're able to be born during an abortion?
Okay. So first off, if you're talking about a failed abortion and then the baby lives through the abortion, there wasn't a birth that just happened. It's an abortion, right?
Okay.
So that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about after a baby is born.
Let me reread this for you. The fact checkers. Now I got to share the screen. Fucking Gianmarco.
I can read it. You're talking
No.
about failed abortions, which is a little bit different. And that is legal in some states. Now, should it be? I don't know.
Oh, here we go. Right here. Federal data suggests that very few U.S. babies are born alive as a result of failed abortions, but the Centers of Disease Control and Prevention recorded 143 deaths involving between these years involving interest born alive. Jonah, born alive. You just said that they didn't mean they were born. Now you're rolling your eyes.
That counts as
word is
what
born.
I'm talking about with the birth. I'm talking about the baby was born normally, not that we attempted an abortion and then it failed, right? If you want to argue on this point and you say you want to count that as a birth,
no, Jonah, what you're failing to see is that it's the same point. You're just not looking at it from a rational brain because it doesn't serve your argument. So you're closing your eyes to anything that isn't black and white for or against your argument. Read between the lines, bro. If there is a baby that is born, Jonah, if there is a baby that is born during an abortion, what has to be happening that a baby can pop out during an abortion? Is the implication not that they were attempting to abort potentially during labor?
A baby can be, a baby can live even if it comes out of a mother's womb at like the beginning of the 3rd trimester, I believe. I'd have to look that up again. You don't have to get through all 9 months necessarily for a baby to survive outside of the womb.
Okay.
So first off, it doesn't necessarily
that they were already going into labor when they attempted the abortion.
No. What this is
it
saying,
doesn't mean that.
Hold on. No. What this is saying is a woman wanted an abortion. She went in to get an abortion, right? She was like, "Hey, I'm in 2nd trimester. I don't know what fucking trimester. 1st, 2nd, whatever, right? Whatever. They're in pregnancy. I want an abortion. Great. Then the doctor opens it up, tries to kill the baby.
Opens it up. You say opens it up. Walk me through with that.
Can we not right now? Can we not be like that? Like, do whatever's necessary to make an abortion happen, right?
And then they did that, and the lady went into labor.
They did that, and the baby actually lived through it. The entire.
That's not what this is saying. This is saying that the baby was born alive during the attempted abortion.
Right.
What about this are you not reading in the English language, bro?
This is not. I promise you. You can look this up if you want. I don't know how to prove it to you right here. This is not women having a baby, being like, "Hey, I am ready to birth this child. This child is birthing right now," and then they do an abortion. That is not what's happening. This is a woman went in for an abortion surgery, and very few, but some babies survive abortion surgeries. And these are the 143 out of the hundreds of thousands of abortions that happen every year. 143 actually survive that process.
Jonah,
I'm telling you that's what this is talking about. I promise.
So Jonah, stop it right now. You're an intelligent person, bro. What you just said is one of a couple things is happening. Either everybody else is a fucking idiot and they are not smart enough to translate clear English to your comprehension, or the Associated Press misworded.
No, they're saying it
the
right.
article. So Jonah, no. Let me finish. Jonah, I hear what you're saying, but what you're describing does not line up with what you got to shut your blinds.
I do. I need to shut my blinds.
Go ahead.
I'm listening. Keep going.
No, I want to see your angry face. Plus, your camera is creepy as hell, dude.
It needs to freaking stop following me.
That camera wanted to check out them.
Keep going.
Camera wanted to check out.
I don't know how to prove to you that you're wrong on this. You and I are just disagreeing on.
No, stop it, Jonah. You're just not using logic, bro. You're describing something that doesn't match the language of this. So one of two things.
I just want to make sure I understand what you think it's saying. You think it's saying that the mother was birthing a baby, and then midway through attempts an abortion? Like, can you clarify what you think this is saying?
I'm going to clarify. You ready? You ready?
Yes.
I'm going to say it very, very clearly.
Okay.
The article says that infants were born alive during an attempted abortion. So at that particular point, it was born alive, as opposed to what? Being born not alive. So there is a strong implication in this language that the abortion, one of only two things could be taking place based on the wording of this article, Jonah. And one of them does not match the description you tried to pass off. Only one of two things does the English language allow for a solution for this. Number one, the baby was born during an abortion attempt.
Wait, hold on. I just want
to.
Wait,
there was
can I ask questions? I need to understand how you read this. Okay.
I'm literally trying to explain it. You're interrupting my explanation.
I'm
to
still
ask you to
confused by what
explain
you're
it.
saying. What you've just said, I need to ask questions about to understand. I'm gonna honestly try to understand your perspective. So you think the baby, you think the mom was like, I am birthing this baby, right? We are having the baby. Correct?
Jonah, all I can do is reread what I'm saying. This is all I'm gonna say, bro. And then I think this guy wants to talk about the Celtics. So I'll finish this point. We'll go to a different topic other than abortion, because this really does need to be its own show. Because contrary to the humor in our post today,
okay, can you read the next sentence? How about you just read the next sentence after that sentence?
I'm going to, but I want to finish this point.
Okay.
You're trying to tell me that this means that people went and tried to have abortions, and then those babies survived abortions.
Correct.
That's not what this says. This is saying that they were born alive during the attempted abortion. There's only one of two things that happen. Either that abortion accidentally caused that woman to go into labor immediately, plausible option number one, based on the English language that's written in that final sentence, or number two, the abortion was being attempted during labor. English only allows for those two explanations. And if somebody has another explanation, by all means, feel free to explain. Again, I am not a professional in this topic, so I'm deducing a lot.
And see which one of our how we read
and
this.
So here's the thing right here. This is it right here, guys. This is where it goes in one ear and out the other. And this is where, and Jonah, I hate to do this because I don't like doing this. I don't like. No, hold on. I don't like
evading. You're evading. Read the next sentence.
No, I'm not evading.
That agreed with my interpretation or yours.
This is my point, right? And this is where you and I have a hard time. Remember that thing where we were in the group chat and people were saying that you were super evasive? This is what I'm talking about. You are ignoring anything that doesn't prove your point. And you're getting frustrated about it. So I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on.
No, just read the next sentence.
I'll read the whole paragraph.
Okay.
Anti-abortion politicians have been pushing for state. Okay, here's the next sentence. Anti-abortion politicians and activists have been pushing for state and federal legislation that would impose criminal penalties on doctors who fail to give medical care to babies born alive after failed abortions. Okay. I don't know how you think that helps your argument. What that means is that there is clear evidence of doctors refusing to give life-saving care to babies who were born alive.
So wait, hold on. I just need to understand. Can I ask a question? I don't want to get off this. This is crazy to me. So you think, because I need to understand what you think. This woman is there's the first one, which is actually the first thing you said, which was what I think it is, that it's a failed abortion, and then they immediately went into labor, let's say. That's a possibility, but what I'm saying is the original procedure they're trying to get is an abortion, which you're contesting right now. The second thing you said it's either that, or the second thing you said is this woman came into the hospital, said, I want to have this baby right now. I am in labor. I'm ready to have this baby. And then she said, and I want you to, I'm having this baby. And then halfway through, she's like, no, I want to actually abort the baby. Or how does that actually happen?
The answer, I don't think it's what you just explained.
So go through the scenario of the woman who has a baby. You're saying that they were born alive, as in they went through the birthing process. And during that birthing process, they attempted an abortion. Okay.
Do you want me to answer your question?
Yes.
The answer to your second question is I don't know, which I have stated repeatedly. The thing that you're uncomfortable saying out loud, which is a fact, is that you don't know, Jonah. Here's the thing. This may be a simple piece of information to research, but like I've said repeatedly, unlike you, I don't like to emotionally and confidently state things as facts just because I feel passionate about them. I'm willing and more than comfortable stating I don't know if I don't know something, right? What you tried to prove as fact was that what DT said yesterday in that debate was that nobody's trying to kill or impact babies after they were born. You're saying that's bullshit. That doesn't happen. So what I present to you is literally a freaking article who the paragraph that you thought was helping you literally says that they are trying to seek legal implications, criminal penalties on doctors who fail to give medical care on babies born alive after failed abortions. The implication in that sentence, Jonah, the implication, you got to use common sense, bro. If they need to try to provide legal implications on doctors who aren't saving babies that were born alive during a failed abortion, that means there is enough doctors who have sat there and done nothing that they want to make it criminal to do so. If this wasn't happening, they wouldn't need to pursue criminal charges against it. So what that means is that, Jonah, at least in 143 cases, there were doctors who, in some fashion, were part of an abortion. That abortion failed, and the doctors watched a living baby and refused to provide medical care to that living baby because the intent of the mother was to abort it. That baby survived the abortion, potentially died.
Okay, great. So now we agree. Yes, I understand that it was a failed abortion, and then the baby actually lived through it. That is an interesting point. I was not considering that an abortion was failed. What do you do with now a baby, because it's outside of the room, when an abortion fails, right? That's what we weren't arguing about that part. That's what I think happened. That's what I was saying over and over again.
No, but here's the thing, Jonah, what you're not addressing is the fact that
I'm about to. Just give me a second. So if you consider that a birth, right, which I could argue with you about it, that's a little bit confusing. That if a failed abortion, does that count as a birth, right?
What about that is confusing?
I don't know. Do you really want? I mean, we can get into this. I mean, okay. Probably, I would actually agree with you. I would probably say, look, you failed the abortion, you fucked it up. Somehow you didn't kill the fetus, you didn't kill the living organism, and now it's outside of the womb. At this point, it is exactly the same as a baby because we're not even attached to the mother's body.
Exactly the same as a baby? Where the fuck are you getting definitions of human life, bro? Liberal dictionary.com.
You want to do the abortion debate?
The human being was alive with a heartbeat, bro.
Okay. Do you want to do the abortion debate? Like this is now we're doing the abortion.
No, I don't. But that's a different conversation. We cannot go down that road. Here's the simple point I've been trying.
Once it is out of the mother's womb, even if it's a failed abortion, yes. Like I'm thinking about it now, that would probably be a baby at that point. If you want to count that as a post-birth, the fact that
you had to think about that is insane to me.
Okay, thank you, Keanu. That it was, if you want to count that as a post-birth thing, okay, then I am wrong. I wasn't counting that. I wasn't counting failed abortions. He didn't say, look, even in some states, failed abortions where the kid lives afterwards, there are Democrats who should be able to kill that baby.
But you still didn't know the fact, and you were comfortable saying he was.
Woman goes through a birth, a normal birth, not an abortion surgery, like she births a baby, and then they're cool with the mother killing it afterwards, right? Let's go into other facts. I'm okay with where that is. If you consider a failed abortion a birth, okay, I'll give it to you. I will count it as a birth because I don't want to die on that hill. That would get into more than I want to get into right now.
Okay.
That's all.
We can do that.
You want to keep going?
No, I'm good, man. I just like here's the summary.
No, I keep going with like different topics.
Yeah, now let's go to different topics. I don't want to keep going on this one. Like my summary for this,
traffics people to our rallies. Absolutely no.
what do you? Okay. I don't know about. I don't think that's what happened. That's a fair question, Shauna. I don't think that's what happened in this example, but that is a fair question. But guys, the Richard, Richard, bro, you just keep talking about a video, bro. It's not helpful to me. I don't even know where this video is, dog. Right? Like, are you talking about you shared it on your channel? What channel? Like, are we supposed to go do research about your social media and find a video? Bring the video to us, dog. Help us help you. I would like to see it if you think it's helpful. He's mentioned it like 17 times. Apparently, it will be helpful. So yeah, here's my biggest concern. I think this is going to continue to happen, bro. I think the biggest issue here isn't the information, it's how you process the information. And if you don't mind, I'm gonna use you as a muse for the whole party in question. Because the fact that you saw that information and were like, bro, you reaching to try to come to the conclusions that you came through. It's right there in clear English, black and white. And you are still reaching so hard to try to make that thing fit your narrative. And it's just like, well, if you're not willing to accept, if you're not willing to accept information that doesn't serve your argument, then you're not searching for truth. You're searching for confirmation. It's confirmation bias. You want to feel good in your echo chamber with everybody that agrees with you. And if not, you have a coronary. You have like a mental breakdown.
How I view what Trump said, and I rewatched it 5 seconds ago, and it's debatable whether he's talking about Democrats being okay with the third trimester abortion or whether he was saying they're okay with what he thinks the New Jersey governor said, where it's okay to kill a baby after it's born, not after a failed abortion surgery, after it's just born. Then if he's talking about the third trimester, there are some Democrats who believe that you can abort a baby in the third trimester. That's just true.
Jonah, do me a favor. You definitely want to watch this video. Richard, bro, I don't know why it didn't come through on my side. Go to the private chat. Go to the private chat. Okay. It's 22 seconds. Can you share your screen and share that? It's about this topic. Apparently it was blocked.
Mothers in labor. I can tell you exactly what would happen. The infant would be delivered. The infant would be kept comfortable. The infant would be resuscitated if that's what the mother and the family desired. And then a discussion would ensue between the physicians and the mother. So I think this was really blown out of proportion.
There's I don't know context there. There was not a lot of context. Is he talking about a failed abortion, or is he talking about like after the birth?
There's that doesn't say anything. Yeah, that's not helpful. I would love to see the full thing, bro. I would definitely love to see the full thing.
I would be down to see the full thing too. But okay, let's move off this topic. She said that she traffics in people or brings a ton of people to her rallies fakely. They're paid actors or something like that. No evidence for that at all. I don't, unless somebody has evidence to prove that. That was just
wait, hold on. Fake news. How do you know there's no evidence? Like, are you just saying there's no evidence again because you don't like the idea?
I mean, no, Keanu, the burden of proof is on the person making the claim. So Trump presented a fact. I have found no evidence. If you have evidence, great. I tried to find it. I didn't find any evidence. If you can find evidence of Kamala trafficking people to it, then I'll be like, okay, I was wrong. But I could not find any evidence.
I did not look into it, so I can't. What I do know is I did hear that well before last night. I've heard there was a thing that went around, and I mean, take this for what you will, right? I don't know if this is true, but there was a thing that went around that stated that there were Craigslist ads out in the area inviting people out to things, and they didn't realize it was to a rally. One thing that I think is more founded. Yeah, like they were being paid to come out to a rally. There was Craigslist ads. Yeah, no, this was I didn't save it. I probably should have. This was like 3 weeks ago. 3 weeks ago, there was a couple of people who had shared it, and they shared screenshots of the Craigslist ad. I'm sure we could probably find that if we looked. But the other thing that I do know is much more accepted, and we kind of all know is true, is the fact that Kamala, her rallies were not presented as rallies. They were presented as free concerts. So they would have like Megan Thee Stallion had a free concert.
Oh,
and that's how it was advertised, as a free concert. It was not advertised as a rally. It was advertised as a free concert. So they would show up to the free concert, and then afterwards, Kamala Harris would come out and she would do her rally, and they would advertise that as, look at all the people that came to my rally. When
You can argue
95,
about that, but
99,
that wasn't his claim. That wasn't what Trump said.
if links don't work in the chat, Craigslist, that's where, okay. Yeah. So I don't know. Right. But what that for me, I don't know what that for me, it paints the picture of a pattern of you're willing to do whatever it takes to get people to come out to your rallies. Whether we can
that's not what
prove,
Trump said. Trump didn't say, hey, you advertise it as concerts, that's why you have so many people. He said you're paying people to come to your rallies. So okay. I haven't seen any evidence for that.
I got I really got to ask this question for you, bro. Jonah, like let's forget the politics for a minute. Like let's just lay all this stuff down, because I've said this to you a million times. You are, I believe, a very intelligent person, but you say some shit that make you sound super dumb, dude. Right? And
is there any
dumb.
Evidence? What have I said that's not true so far?
Hear me out, bro. Hear me out. So here's my question. Here's my question to you. Like, we've had these conversations enough times, right? Like your posture right now, you already have no intention of listening to what I'm about to say. You already have your walls up and you are listening with the intent to respond, not with the intent to understand. What's the point? What's the point of coming on a podcast? What's the point of having a dialogue where the only thing you want to fucking do is give people an opportunity to get them with the gotcha and say, prove it. If you can't prove it, it's not true. Like, there's no benefit.
Give me any evidence.
But here's the thing, bro. Here's my honest question for you. And I'm just asking you this man to man, a dude to a dude, a friend to a friend.
Sure.
What do you gain as a human being going this hard in the fence for people, like going this hard to battle for people who don't know or give a flying bird crap about you?
Show me the evidence. I just want to know the truth.
This is what I mean. When I said a minute ago, he was just listening to the intent to respond. You're not listening to anything I'm saying. You just keep going back to your point. This, for me, bro, is what I'm talking about poor emotional control. Your emotions are controlling you right now. You are your emotions, bitch. You have no control over your ability to calm down, to listen, to rationalize, to reason what I'm saying, or to even have a fair and reasonable dialogue with another human being. Because your emotions are so controlling your ability to listen to somebody who disagrees with you that you're just shutting it down. Now, I'm not saying you need to agree with me. Like we've confirmed on this thing, like there is no intent for either one of us convincing the other person to agree with the other person. I don't have an issue with that, right? Nor do I have that expectation. What I am concerned with is that everything you disagree with, you just shut down without hearing it out. And the worst part is you are comfortable passionately calling something wrong that you don't have facts on. But then you require me to present facts before you hear my perspective. You knew Trump was wrong because it's just common sense. You couldn't produce facts. You tried twice. But now when I present something that's contradicting your point, you won't hear me until I present facts. Why is the burden of proof? You said the burden of proof is on the person challenging the idea. No. But you couldn't produce proof for the first thing. My question is, why is that the burden of proof? At the end of the day,
this is an argument based on the laws of logic. So one of the, I think it's the laws, it's either the laws of logic or, are you done, by the way? I don't want to interrupt you. I'm calming down because you want me to stay calm. I'll keep my emotions in check. Okay.
No, I don't care if you're, go ahead, man. Go ahead.
Okay. So I'm answering your question. You said, why is the burden of proof? The burden of proof is on the person making the claim, right? If I say God exists, I have to provide evidence for God existing. I can't disprove that God exists. I need you to show me there is evidence for X, right? This is just how logic works because I can't disprove a negative. And I can try to think of some examples. We got into this earlier, but this is just kind of like a laws of logic thing where like if you make a claim, you have to be the one to provide evidence for the claim.
That's not necessarily.
And I know
true.
I'm just saying it. And then you're like, Jonah, like, why? I would have to like think a long time about why to honestly give you a really good answer to this.
But if you're not really sure why are you living your life based on that rule?
I can give you examples of why this doesn't work, right? So let's take God for example, right? Okay. How can I disprove God to you?
I don't think that's the right question. That's why I don't agree with your
That's
premise.
the point. What you're asking me to do, or what you would be asking me to do, is, or why you don't like my answer to what were we just talking about? About the about Kamala trapping her rally. What you're asking me to do is disprove she didn't pay people, right? Or prove she didn't pay people, right?
No, that's not that. But that's not what I'm asking you.
Okay, restate what you were asking me.
No. If you remember at the beginning, I'm like, let's get away from the politics for a minute, right? I'm just talking about being rational and not being owned by the circumstance. Like at the end of the day, I've said this a billion times, right? I think it's obvious for a lot of basic common sense reasons that Trump is a better selection than Kamala Harris. But guess what? What does that mean? It doesn't mean shit. That's just my opinion. You can say the exact opposite. Cool. Like at the end of the day, you know what doesn't matter? My opinion on these people. Because they don't care about me, Jonah. They don't care about you. They don't know me. So you know what I'm not going to do? Emotionally go to bat for some dude who does not know me and does not care about me. And if I find myself consistently, hold on. If I find myself consistently finding myself outside of my character, losing myself and getting emotionally all riled up for a bunch of people who don't care about me, what am I doing? But we don't ask that question. We don't pause and ask, why am I fighting so hard for some people who don't fight for me, who don't know me, who really don't care about me, and they don't have to, right? Now, maybe you could argue that if they're in that position, they should, and that's different. But here's my point. My point for all of this stuff today, screw the Democrats, screw the Republicans, screw all of this conversation. Here's my point. If you, and I'm you referring to anybody watching this video, are fighting with people that you do know in your real life to defend some people who you don't know, you need to take a strong look in the mirror as to your emotional priorities and your emotional maturity.
Can I ask you a question?
So hold on, let me finish my point, and then I'll wrap the point up quick, and then you can ask me the question.
Thank you.
So this is my point. My point is, we lose ourselves to all of this nonsense. And what I'm asking myself is like, do you guys, and I'm saying for everybody, anybody who ever watches this video, do you ever stop for 5 seconds and ask yourself what you're fighting so passionately for? Like, why do you care so much to defend these people? At the end of the day, screw Democrats and Republicans, Jonah. If there are human beings and doctors who are doing this to babies, the question is, regardless of political, if the baby's already alive and the doctor's not treating it, is that something you're okay with or not? That's not a political issue, in my opinion. Now, what happens before the baby's born, it's a different conversation that I told you many times I'm not qualified to speak on. We can have a conversation about that. But for me, this is my point. So let's go back. Then this is how I'm going to wrap this up, and you can ask me your question. Juan has made a couple points defending you. He sounds like a critical thinker to me and someone who's driven by facts.
Thanks.
I agree with 50%.
I don't get much love in the chats.
Nah, you do. I want to share them. I want to share them.
I very rarely get love in the chats.
So, and that's why I want to highlight it, right? I respect Juan for coming out here and giving his opinion. Juan, I don't know if you were here earlier. I agree with 50% of what you just said here. I think that he's a critical thinker who's driven by, I think that you're a critical thinker who's driven
your point.
by, well, I'm, okay. I'll wrap it up.
I'm being rude. I'm being rude. Sorry about that. I'm just like, I want to ask you a question.
I think that you're a critical thinker who's driven by your upbringing, who's driven by popular opinion, who's driven by emotions. And every once in a while, when you can find some facts to support your emotions, all the better. But you don't need facts to support your beliefs. And the fact that you couldn't find them to defend your argument on the abortion topic, but you were still okay being passionate about the fact that you were right, even though you knew you couldn't find facts, but is my point. You knew you couldn't find facts. You tried twice, and you still were comfortable
I need
staying
to respond.
passionate.
You're talking way too long. I'm sorry. I need to respond
Okay.
to this. I love you, Quijano, but this is getting to. I'm okay with some somewhat insulting stuff. I'm fine with it. I'm not offended, but I need to be able to respond to it already.
Okay.
So,
Respond.
I want to ask you a question because you said a lot there. So there's a bunch of different things to talk about, right? Is Jonah driven by emotions and not interested in finding the real facts of the case. Okay. What would Jonah look like if he was going purely on factual stuff? We started this whole thing by what did Trump say? Are we fact checking Trump or not? Right? I didn't say anything. Look, whether an abortion, if a failed abortion and the baby lives after that, I don't know. Like I want to think about that. My gut says that you should treat that baby as though it's a baby. There might be some philosophical implications that I really want to dive into, not right now, because I can't think of it off the top of my head, right? So do I have bias? Yes, but we all have bias, Quijano. Everyone has bias, and everyone is driven somewhat by their emotions. I was getting emotional because I lose it when people are reading the same thing and somehow we're not hearing the same thing. That bothers me. Then I'm like, okay, how are we reading the same goddamn sentence and not understanding it? That makes me go a little crazy.
That part right there for me, to be clear.
Hold on. Let me finish. I let you talk for like 12 minutes.
You did let me finish.
Okay, fair enough. I'm sorry. I'm going to say one thing for 5 seconds real quick. I think it was also your bias that made it where we didn't see that sentence the same way. In my opinion, it goes both ways. And I will let you finish. I am sorry that I interrupted you.
No, you're fine. I did talk for a long time. I have a habit of doing that. Here's my point, bro. This is where the difference comes into play. When you read that sentence, you filtered it by your bias. I chose to remove bias and try to just see it for what it was. That's the difference. And that's my point. Everything that I was just, all my prologue leading up to how we get emotionally charged for people who don't care about us, remove all that. That's fine. That's my point. I was removing my bias and reading what was there. And you were trying to support your own. And that's why I said repeatedly. Well, no, you can't. I mean, you can, but I don't see how you do, because I literally said repeatedly, I don't know what this means because I don't know enough about this topic. Did you not hear me say that like 15, 20 times?
No, you said that you're wrong. Your interpretation is wrong, Jonah. And
because I was
the correct interpretation.
Correct, because you were interpreting what was being said to reiterate your previous point.
You were interpreting it to counter my point because you believe in the counter.
And this is how we go in circles. We make no
progress.
So
anywho, we're going to keep going in circles on this. Let me also respond to something else that you said. You were saying it's like, hey, why would you let this stuff get you emotional? Like these people don't care about you at all. The one thing though is, Keanu, I don't know how you feel about this. I mean, do you feel like whoever the president is affects your life?
I do.
That's an interesting question. I don't know, but like, what do you think on that?
I do. So I think that kind of. Let me say kind of. The answer is kind of.
Okay. Explain.
I mean, simply put, I think that for the most part, the political system is it's a puppet show they're putting on in front of us. I think the real people who actually control things control it behind the scenes and have been controlling it for a long time. And I think that who they put in front of us is just a puppet. I do think that it is possible. I think it's possible that Trump is one guy who's just not on their team and he's not going to get bought by them. And that's why he gets so much opposition. Okay. Because he's the one guy they can't control. He's fighting that agenda. And so that's why I say kind of. Outside of this dude coming in here and trying to do something different, which they could also be playing this. I don't know. But I think that outside of that outlier, which I do see Trump as an outlier, I think just the political stuff is bullshit. I think we're responsible for our own lives. I do think that it impacts us, but I think for the most part, it's so far outside of the majority of humans' realms that they can't really do much about it. I think that it's responsible for us to understand what's happening so we can cast our vote to the extent that our vote matters, because if it does, I'd rather at least do my part and educate myself, but that's about the extent of it for me.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I might agree with that. I think politics does affect us more than that. I think it really does. I don't think the whole thing is a sham. I think there is a huge difference between Trump and Kamala. I think there's a huge difference between Mitt Romney and Obama. I think there's a huge difference between Obama and George W. Bush. I think who the president is does matter and affects us significantly in many different ways. I don't like the idea. I mean, my family's from California, so abortion-wise, it doesn't really fucking matter, right? But if my family was in Texas and like my mom was a school psychologist, I mean, I don't know everything about like how hard it would be to go to a different state to get an abortion. But I hate the idea that anybody in my family, any of the women in my family, aren't able to get an abortion if they made like a mistake or the condom broke or something happened. And now like my sister, like not my sister specifically, I don't want to talk about, my sister is born again virgin, amen. But like she, like basically, like I would hate the idea, like she has sex
born again virgin.
Shut up. I shouldn't have made that joke. Let's let's say she was. I hate the idea that if she was 16 or maybe my future daughter, she makes a mistake at 16 and she's stuck with taking care of a child that she is not able to take care of. That will affect her life for the rest of her life. So why do I get emotional sometimes is because this shit does matter. I think it does. So that's to answer your question, because you asked, how are you letting this emotionally affect you? Is because these things actually, in my opinion, do matter. I think it does matter who the president is. I think that affects what happens when there's a war, what happens when, like, anyways, so I made my point, but that's why I let it emotionally affect me sometimes. And I think it should emotionally affect you somewhat. It in my opinion, if it doesn't emotionally affect you at all, then you don't recognize how the differences affect you.
That's fair. I don't necessarily have an issue with anything you just said, but then my follow-up question would be to you is this. Do you agree that there's a difference between having emotions and your emotions having you?
Sure.
Okay. And do you think that people use the statement that you just made, which is a rational one, to justify losing themselves to their emotions and getting past reason and becoming something completely different?
Yeah, I see that on both sides. Yeah, people do that all the time with everything.
Okay. So then would you agree that my point still stands, that I respect and appreciate the need to have passion or fervor surrounding this topic? I get that. But in my opinion, if that passion causes you to become so blinded by your emotions that you can't see anything that disagrees with your worldview, right? Now your emotions aren't serving you.
Keanu, do you think I'm not willing to look at anything that doesn't serve my worldview, though? Do you think we could have this podcast if that was true?
No. I don't think that at all. I actually respect and appreciate that you're open to considering things.
This is also what I think. I also think this too. I think Trump does that all the time. But anyways, whatever.
Yeah, that's fair, right? But people, and I don't know what your implication behind that one, right? So we're not having a conversation. So I'm reading into a text that I may not be fairly reading into, right? So forgive the generalization. But people like Juan who make comments like this use this as an excuse to pawn off responsibility. Well, if Trump does it, I can do it too. Shut up. That doesn't matter. Who cares if Trump does it? Once again, you're avoiding personal responsibility to talk about some dude who doesn't know you. Stop talking about that dude. You don't like him so much. Stop talking about him. How about we talk about the fact that you literally needed to go to a microphone and scream to the top of your lungs for 5 minutes because you needed an emotional mental health break? Well, then why you need to do that on a microphone, right? I'm referring to a video that I sent Jonah. There is a point where you don't have control over your emotions, and something you used to be passionate about, that you could have used that passion to provide value to the situation, that same passion has taken over, and now you're a liability. Okay. Do you agree that some people can become so passionate that they go from potentially being helpful to becoming a liability? That's my issue. The majority of the people who are out here casting their votes are a liability to this election process. Not a contributor, not a value contributor. Why do I believe they're a liability? Is because they're not thinking rationally. So to your point, Jonah, I do agree that you are open-minded, but I think you stop there. I think you're content with the fact that you call yourself open-minded, and then you put such a big filter in front of that window you call being open-minded that nothing can get through anyways. So the window's open. The window's open, and you're open to something coming through, but
that was a wild metaphor.
You're going to gatekeep the hell out of anything that comes to that window.
Okay, Keanu. I mean, I respect your opinion, but honestly, bro, I think it's literally the exact same with you. Like, that's how I feel. It's like,
Fair enough. Fair
I think
enough.
it's literally the same bullshit with you then. Like if I have a filter, you have a filter. So whatever. All right, do you want to keep going with the Trump fact checking or what?
Yeah, let's go. Let's go. So
Wait, so
here's
this
my
is
point.
something that's okay.
No, talking about the thing, the busing voters. You don't know that she didn't. Then you're not qualified to say that he lied.
Okay.
You like that. That's the thing.
All right, Keanu, I'm going to give you an example to do this. Is there a flying spaghetti monster on top of you?
Not currently.
How do you know? An invisible flying spaghetti monster. Is there an invisible flying spaghetti monster on top of you?
I don't know.
Okay. So, what do you think is the likelihood there's an invisible flying spaghetti monster on top of you?
I'm extremely unversed with spaghetti monsters, especially invisible ones that fly.
Stop. You know where I'm going with this.
Correct.
Get
And I'm
the
answering
fuck-
the way I would
There's
answer any topic.
no
If I don't know
shot
something,
you
I'm not going
believe
to
there's
speak on it.
any Keanu, you're not a crazy person.
I mean,
Stop-
debatable.
Stop with the political answers.
That's not a
Is-
political answer. That's how I process information.
No,
When I don't know
dude,
something, I
you're
say I
gonna-
don't know.
Chat okay, I'm gonna go through this because I know why you're answering this way. You're smart. You know
Let's
where
see
I'm
it through.
going with this.
Let's see it through.
But I know you don't think there's an invisible spaghetti monster on top of you. I guarantee it. So you're like Jonah. I don't see any evidence for a flying spaghetti monster on top of me. If you have evidence that there's a flying spaghetti monster on top of me, then I'm willing to believe you. That's what I said in terms of the busing. There
Fair.
is no evidence that there is any busing happening with
Did you
Kamala's
look
audience.
for evidence?
I did. I couldn't find any.
Okay,
That's when
fair
I
enough.
said, Keanu, do you have any evidence? Because I see no evidence for this claim, so I think it's false unless somebody provides me evidence. That's what I said. So
no, I don't disagree with that. So, but here was my
Okay.
response to that. My response was, I don't know about that. I've heard stories about that. I don't know. What I have heard is that she's putting on fake concerts and then calling those concerts her rallies so she can advertise high numbers. And you were like, well, that's
that
not the
might
same
be,
thing.
that might be true, but that's not what Trump said.
Exactly. But here's my point. And this is where I was originally trying to digress to. At what point does deductive reasoning kick in our lives? Now, can Trump prove that? I have no idea. To be clear, I'm answering your flying spaghetti. Does the flying spaghetti? I don't know. I'm not going to say Trump was right. Maybe he needed to get fact checked. I'm not here to defend this dude, right? He could be wrong. What I do know is that there is a pattern of actions that we should be freaking smart enough to start paying attention to. So what I do know is that there are multiple concerts that she claimed to become rallies that happened more than once, which means there is a pattern of her trying to pretend her rallies are bigger than they are. So that tells me that it is not far-fetched that she would pay people to come to rallies.
Okay,
She
that's
paid an artist to put on a fake concert. So why wouldn't she pay people to bus them into a rally? That is not a, you think that's a far-fetched idea?
That's a stretch. You're stretching right now. That's what I think. But
Wait,
it
hold
might
on.
be-
Okay, fair enough. Guys, in the chat, I could be crazy here.
the way you-
Genuinely,
okay.
I'm interested. Do you guys think that's a stretch? We don't know. Let's be clear. Unless you guys presented in the chat, we don't know the facts here. We're speculating. We're speculating. I don't think it's far-fetched that if she does one, that doing the other is that big of a stretch. Jonah thinks it's a stretch. What do you guys think? Stretch or not a stretch? I'm interested.
But Keanu, we are right now fact-checking Trump. That's what
Okay.
we're doing right now, right?
Okay.
So in the context of that, that is not what Trump said. Now, what you just said, that could be true. I've never heard that in my entire life. I do not know if that's true or not. That was not Trump's claim. Trump's claim was not, hey, you made your audiences bigger by promoting them as concerts. His claim was you pay people in order to come to the concert. And there is as much evidence for that I can find for there being evidence that there's a flying spaghetti monster on top of your head right now. An invisible flying spaghetti monster. There is
Fair enough.
equal amounts of evidence. So you don't want to say the probabilities of whether there's a spaghetti monster on top of you, which I think you know what the probabilities are and you don't want to say it, which is fine. I'll let you go with that. Do you think that it is, as of right now, you haven't looked for the evidence, right? You're only trusting my word, right? You could do a Google search and find evidence immediately, and then it's like, okay. And then I'd be like, look, I'm wrong. But I looked for evidence and I couldn't find it. Let's just, for hypothetical sake, let's just say there is no evidence that she paid people. You do your research. The Craigslist stuff had nothing to do with it. It was fake news. Let's just say. Then you would say, logically, right, Keanu, that there's as much evidence for the claim that Kamala Harris paid people to come to her rallies as there being a flying spaghetti monster on top, an invisible flying spaghetti monster on top of your head, right? Did that make sense? That was a lot.
Yeah, no. I hear where you're going. I just don't look at it like that, right? I hear you. I'm not arguing with your logic. I understand your line of reasoning. Okay. I do. I understand your line of reasoning. I can't say that. I can't say that I have. No. I don't have an issue with your line of reasoning, right? Like I usually don't. I have an issue with the way you interpret most things, right? And so I don't have an issue with that line of reasoning. I think your interpretation is different than mine, and I'm not saying mine's right. To be honest with you, I'm looking at this as I don't know. I've heard this before. I can't prove it right or wrong, but there's a pattern here that she pretends and she gasps. Like, are we gonna what about the AI? All of the AI people taking pictures, right, that had come out. There is a clear pattern that this woman or this woman's campaign, right? And because maybe it's not her. Maybe it's just her campaign managers, right? Let's just call it to the campaign, whatever. The Harris campaign has a track record of faking large numbers. AI pictures, concerts that they're claiming that were never concerts. Like, bro, think about that. Hey, let's do this Megan Thee Stallion concert. It's Megan Thee Stallion. Everybody comes out, and then Kamala Harris jumps out. Everybody's like, why are you here? Look at my rally. That was not your rally, right? If these things are happening, that's a problem, dude. She's lying.
Wait, do you have the evidence that that's happening?
The people who attended the concerts literally posted it on social media.
Do we have any videos?
I don't know if Jamarco can find them, but this was like a common thing.
Okay. Look, if it is, let's find out.
Did you see the AI photos of her by the airplane?
Dude, AI photos, I like.
Are you going to deflect again?
Photos. When it comes to
there were AI photos that her campaign posted.
How do we know
all of the large numbers her campaign posted?
Well, how do we know they're AI?
Because you can see people with multiple hands, phones that don't go anywhere. The people were obviously AI. When you inspect that picture,
I haven't seen these photos.
I don't know. AI.
I don't know what you're talking about. Like, I literally have never seen any of these photos, so I don't know. That's why I'm like,
hear this, Jonah. Do you think maybe this is part of the issue because you're so secluded in the FO? Like, you want
to go in this? I'm gonna just release. I'm gonna like just start releasing the 4 hours of Trump research I did because this you didn't know anything about that, right? If we want to go into is there a reason you don't know something? It's like, okay, bro. Like there are things that we don't know. All right. Like,
I wish I could see Juan's thing. So Juan's saying there's something that's disproving that.
Like, Keanu, I'm totally open to hearing you about Kamala Harris, AI, whatever the fuck. All I'm saying to you is I have seen no evidence. Please provide the evidence and I will like evaluate it, right? That's all I'm saying right now. I'm not saying you're 100% wrong.
Fair enough.
But like, I haven't seen anything. So, and now you're just saying like, is there a reason you don't know that? It's like, bro, like,
no. I'm not. That's not like
there's a lot. We don't all know everything.
No, nor should we. What I'm saying is that this is just demonstrative, and everybody, we all have this, right? Our algorithm.
Not demonstrative. Get out of here. There are things you don't know either, right? Like, that's not demonstrative that I don't know this.
What the hell? You literally just responded to a point that I wasn't trying to make.
Sorry, keep going.
My point was this is just demonstrative of like the system that we're in. Your algorithm is going to show you stuff that caters to your worldview, right? For me, I've seen these things so many hundreds of times. It's like a foregone conclusion for me. You've never seen any of this. This is my point, right? Like, this is my point. This isn't an attack on you, Jonah. It's not an attack on liberals, not an attack on anybody. This is just demonstrative of the fact that the system that we're in is built to do this. It's built to be divisive, right? So the fact that I'm seeing all of this information and you're seeing none of it, I've seen this a million times and you've never seen it. This is our problem. This is what I mean when I say we got to be aware of the fact that we're getting played. Like, this is evidence of that. This isn't a you or a me problem. The fact that this is all over my algorithm and it's not on yours shows the fact that there is a system that is feeding this dissension, this division between people in this country. That, for me, is a way bigger problem than
it's a problem. No,
left
I
versus
agree.
right.
I agree. I think liberals see what liberals want to see, and conservatives see what conservatives want to see. That's kind of the
But
issue with
they don't know,
algorithm.
but they don't have the choice. They don't control. You don't control your algorithm.
Well,
Instagram
it sees that you like one thing, so it's like you follow Donald Trump, and then your algorithm's like, oh, he's a conservative. Let's show him more conservative stuff, right? I mean, the algorithm is showing you what you want to see. Also.
Have you seen that video where it was on TikTok or something like that? It was I think it was a girl showing a video, and she was like outraged by what the person said in the top comment, and she sent it to her boyfriend, and the top comment was completely different. So the top comment was meant to piss her off and get her in the comments. The top comment for him was geared to piss him off and get him in the comments, right? So they're both looking at the exact same thing, but the picture they're having painted to them is drastically different. And this is why I'm so big on like, bro, like, but just like remove your emotions, because it is the world's easiest thing to get sucked into that and be like, nah, this is bullshit. Can you see this is right here? And it's just like, yeah, but they're painting it very, very intentionally. This is why I think critical thinking and backing up outside of biases is important. It's hard, but I think it's important.
Okay. So we're not talking about the debate much. Do you want to watch some of the debate? I feel like this will be better to just like, let's just watch the debate and then like be like, all right, let's fact check them like right now. Because you and I didn't have enough time between now and yesterday to like do that much fact checking, to be honest. So let's do it. Kamala Trump debate live. Just watch. Let's relive our imagination. Is this? Is this it?
Why don't you just go? Can you?
The reality.
Wait. Okay. This is just like a replay of the debate.
I think that's just a live replay.
Yeah.
Yeah, just play that.
Millions of people. When you
Start
add
it
up,
over.
far worse than people understand what's going on over there. But when she mentions about Israel, all of a sudden, she hates Israel. She wouldn't even meet with Netanyahu when he went to Congress to make a very important speech. She refused to be there because she was at a sorority party of hers. She wanted to go to the sorority party. She hates.
Okay, so I'll just start with that one right there, right? You can argue how much Kamala Harris has to do with what the previous administration does. I don't know how responsible you feel like she is for what Joe Biden did. Joe Biden's been incredibly supportive of Israel. So I like not willing to meet with Netanyahu. It's not like she's arguing against Joe Biden in the office being like, hey, like what you guys are doing is incredibly fucked up, right?
I don't know.
So
yeah. Did she refuse to meet with him though? I heard something about maybe she refused to show up to a meeting.
All right, let's find out.
I don't know.
Did Kamala refuse to meet with Netanyahu? I don't know how you feel about Newsweek. Okay, so maybe they're talking about this. So Netanyahu arrived in U.S. Monday and expected to deliver a speech to Congress later this week. Harris, who became a Democratic presidential candidate after President Joe Biden announced Sunday who's stepping down, will not be presiding over Netanyahu's joint address to Congress, an aide told Reuters. The vice president usually presides over these joint addresses. Harris' aide said that she's unable to preside because she'll be traveling to an event in Indianapolis. However, the aide told Reuters that Harris is expected to have a separate meeting with Netanyahu at the White House later this week. I don't know how true this story is, but that makes it sound like that's just not true, what Trump just said then, if that's true.
Wait, he he said
You want me to go back to that?
she refused to meet with him, and it sounds like she did. Did they end up meeting later on in the week?
When was this published? July 23rd, 2024. We need something more recent. Well, this is what he's referring to, is that she wouldn't preside over the Joint Commission or whatever because she was at
that happened. That thing he said that she evaded.
Well, no,
I don't know how severe that is, right? Like, is that a severe sign of
that's not
politics? I don't
biased?
know.
Wait, that's none of your filter right there.
What do you mean?
Trump is making it sound like they have a one-on-one, or Netanyahu wants to have a one-on-one meeting with Harris. Do you agree or disagree?
No, I just said that she refused to meet with him, right? Like, so, and if in this particular circumstance, here's my answer again, right? And this is where what I'm telling you is I'm intentionally removing my filter, right? You're intentionally defending yours. You're assuming that
removing your filter at all, but okay, whatever. Okay, when I say I want to meet with someone, what does that mean to you?
Bro,
like, what would you imagine that happening? What would it be when I say I want to meet with you, Quijano? At least in my head, having nothing to do with politics, that means I meet with you one-on-one, or we meet with like maybe a couple people. What this is saying is Netanyahu speaking in front of Congress, and Kamala Harris had a previous engagement planned. So she said, sorry, I can't go to this joint session of Congress. I need to campaign right now. It sounds like, I don't even know if Netanyahu was like, you need to be here. I don't even know. It's in the article, didn't even say if Netanyahu went to Kamala and was like, hey, I want to meet with you. There was even a request for her to be there. She just usually is there. So if you don't see that, you think it's a filter that like, it's, hey, I refuse to meet with you. Saying I refuse to meet with you in a business setting means I don't want to see you at all, ever. I refuse to meet with you. Right? That is what Trump is implying in just normal English parlance, right? Apparently what happened was, it wasn't that she refused to meet with him, it's that she didn't go to this joint session of Congress. And it seems to be that's what he's referring to, based on a couple of articles. I don't know 100% know if that's true or not.
And what's my opinion on this topic?
What's your opinion on this topic?
Yeah,
you made it sound like what he said was true, that she refused to meet with him.
Did I? What did I say?
That's what you were just saying. What?
What did I say?
Exactly. You said you said like what I think you said exactly was, wait a minute. I think that actually it sounds like she did refuse to meet with him.
Okay. What was my point in that?
Well, you didn't finish after that.
Exactly. Yet you had enough information to feel confident assuming that I was responding with the filter when you didn't actually hear my response.
Okay.
And there it is. Just go ahead. Let's go to the next fact check, bro.
Okay.
Massive Cool Factor. What's up, bro? I don't know what you're doing to the elk, but hopefully it's safe.
Am I sharing my screen? No, I'm not.
No, you are not.
Same time, in her own way, she hates the Arab population because the whole place is going to get blown up. Arabs, Jewish people, Israel will be gone. It would have never happened. Iran was broke under Donald Trump. Now Iran has $300 billion because they took off all the sanctions that I had. Iran had no money for Hamas or Hezbollah or any of the 28 different spheres of terror, and they are spheres of terror.
Do you want Ukraine?
Okay, what do you think about that?
I think this just comes down. What's that?
Sorry, go on.
I think this for me is very simple, right? Like, again, he's not wrong. That's true. I'm not sure what people are referring to. This for me comes down to just like, how do we listen? How do we listen to conversations? Communication is important on me. I have a whole course in community surrounding communication. And a part of what I teach is if you want to be successful at communicating with other people, you have to not listen to them through your ears. You have to listen to them through the manner through which they communicate. Have you heard this philosophy, Jonah? Is this a foreign philosophy? Is it a successful philosophy that helps you increase your sales?
Yes.
Why? Because if you try to assume that everybody communicates like you're going to lose deals. If you want to increase the amount of deals you get, you have to accept that some people communicate differently than you and communicate with them in that fashion. We agree with this principle, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So what that means is that by definition, if I'm only willing to listen to people through my filter, by definition, I will consistently misunderstand people. If this works in sales to be able to close transactions, it also works in how I listen to somebody. This is just basic communication 101. I've said this a million times. I do not believe that Trump is a fantastic communicator. I think what he just did here is 2 examples of him not being what I believe is a great communicator, not going out of his way to communicate for the masses. He's communicating through his lens. It makes it sound like he's saying things that he's not actually trying to say, right? And we all know this, and this is my point. We want to be really intelligent until it comes time for our intelligence to serve the other side, and then we sound real dumb. We know that Trump uses extremely overgeneralized, bombastic speech in everything he does. Everybody's the most attractive. Everybody's the best. Everybody's the worst, right? He uses extremely large speech to describe everything. So when I listen to him say, oh, she hates the Arabs and she hates Israel, I hear 2 things. Here's what I hear. 1, he's clearly just communicating the way he communicates, using large speech to demonstrate his point. He is not speaking necessarily literally. He is using large speech for emphasis. Anybody with a brain who has listened for the last 8 years should be smart enough to get this by now. And if you can't, it's your own fault. But number 2, to the defense of people who don't like that, he creates his own problem because he makes it sound like he's saying things that he's not saying. And for people who won't go above and beyond to actually try to interpret his meaning, and they want to look for opportunities to say, gotcha, you said this wrong. He does things like this that give them a leeway to do exactly that. So I think that in the midst of his extra speech that he does, that bombastic speech for emphasis, he said some factual things, but those facts were probably lost in his extremely exaggerated statements. That's what I heard here. I don't know she hates Israel. I don't know if she actually hates Israel. I think that's a big statement. I don't know if she's done anything.
I'm just concerned about him saying that part. I meant more the part about just where he's talking about like they're funding Iran, they're allowing Iran to that Israel is going to be off the face of the earth, right? If these people
are funding Iran, that's been proven, right? We know that.
What happened was how I understand it is what happened was how I understand it, and I'm not 100% sure on this because I haven't researched the Iran stuff recently. What they did was in exchange for some sort of deal, I don't know if it had to do with nuclear stuff or something like that. With Obama, it was definitely the nuclear stuff. I'm not sure what the Biden administration did, but what they did was some sort of deal and then unfroze their funds that are in foreign banks. So I don't know if you count that as funding Iran. I personally don't count that as funding Iran. That if you actually got something for it. For hostages. So, okay, that's a little different than funding Iran.
What's America's policy on negotiating with terrorists?
Well, okay. I disagree with that policy personally.
That's a different conversation, but we're simply stating the fact that there's clearly something else going on here because America has a clear policy on this topic, yet $6 billion was released.
I mean,
right?
Does Obama,
and then if we talk about all of this stuff, if we're going to, but again, this is my point. I'm not talking about left versus right. I'm talking about what happened, right? And we talked about this the other day. Lots of money's been given to the Middle East during this administration. Lots of money has been given to the Middle East during the Obama administration and during previous administrations, right? We understand. We talked about what happened with Afghanistan. We talked about Benghazi. We've talked about these things. These are factually proven events where there is a clear and obvious effort for the United States to arm and fund terrorist groups. There is only one president in the last 2 decades who has attempted to stop that and successfully did so on an extremely large level, right? So when he refers to things that aren't on the up and up that's happening in the Middle East under this administration, while there might be a billion details, nobody will have the facts on, because we're talking about military, top secret things that are taking place, right? So none of us are going to pretend that what we see in the news is going to be the truth, right? We should be smart enough to acknowledge that. These are military exercises. But the general picture, once again, is being painted that this administration has done a lot to fund and arm terrorist countries and organizations. That's just a fact. And Trump is the only president that stopped that. So when he talked about these things, I would have...
What are you referring to with this administration? Are you talking about when they get out of Afghanistan?
Correct.
Do you think Afghanistan was purposeful, or do you think it was a bumblefuck?
Yes.
I think it was purposeful.
100%.
Why do you think it's purposeful?
Why else would you do that?
Well,
if it is
incompetence, but like, what you think it was purposeful?
I do think it was purposeful. 100% think it was.
Why do you think it's purposeful versus incompetence?
Because and again, this is going to be a hard thing for me to qualify, so I'll just say it. Once again, for the last 20 years, there's been a very, very clear set of example where the Middle East has been armed and funded. And okay. Middle East was armed and funded. Who stopped a decent to exceptionally large amount of the problems in the Middle East? The problems
Trump
did
a pretty good job.
So for me,
did some things that were bad also for the Middle East, but we could get into that.
Sure. Here's my point. What I see is 2 decades of slow drips into the Middle East, so we can paint this picture of this monster in the Middle East that we're calling terrorism that's a threat to our democracy. Impossible. Can't fix it. Obama, smooth talker, he couldn't fix it. Bush, he couldn't fix it either, right? All of these people couldn't fix it. Trump, the guy who was mentally unstable, it was going to start World War III, managed to almost bring peace in the Middle East. A thought like impossible thing in 3 years. Nobody wants to talk about that, but that is a fact. What that means is, in so doing, he undid 20 years of slow drips to fund. Why they're doing it, who knows? We can come to whatever conclusions. Maybe my tinfoil hat is on. I think that, again, I think it's all a plan to destabilize the country as we know it. I think it's definitely a globalist agenda. There's a lot of evidence that pushes towards this, but whether I can prove that or not is irrelevant. I think that for 20 years, they were slowly putting stuff out there. Trump messed it up, and they needed to fix it quick. They needed to make up for lost time, and that was Afghanistan.
What if I gave you like actual reasons why the Americans funded terrorists? That's just not like just globalist agenda. Like, it's like do you want to I'm curious if you want me to say the reasons why America gave money to ISIS.
I'm not against that. You can definitely, obviously, I'm okay with you sharing that information, right? Mm-hmm. I wouldn't be against sharing that information.
Sure. So they funded the Taliban. Oh, okay.
No. Go ahead, bro. Go ahead. The simple point that I'm saying is, like, to answer your question, that's why. I think that the reason why Afghanistan was on purpose is because they wanted to get back what was fixed. They wanted to break what was fixed. And the fastest way to do it was to leave a bunch of money and weapons in the country, right? That's how they made up for all of the stuff that Trump had fixed.
Okay. I mean, here's what I would say. I think it was a bumblefuck. You're saying that it was not a bumblefuck because previously there was purposeful instances where America actually purposefully funded terrorism. Is that more or less your point? Did I get that right?
Yeah, sure. That's essentially what I'm saying. Yes, I believe that America has purposely funded terrorism.
So in the past, we purposefully did it for very geopolitical reasons.
Okay.
Right? There were actually very specific geopolitical reasons behind it. So for instance, when Ronald Reagan funded the Taliban in the 80s to fight Russia, it's because we were fighting the Cold War. And we thought, hey, terrorism, who even knows what that is? I care so much more about beating the Soviet Union. That was the first time we ever, maybe it wasn't. It was the first time that I can think about right now where we did that. Why we funded ISIS, why Obama funded ISIS in 2013, 2012. It's because they were fighting Assad, who just passed his red line of using chemical weapons, right? So they didn't fact check ISIS, and they were like, hey, like, if you're fighting Assad, you're good with us, right? So there are very specific geopolitical reasons why America decides to fund terror. My issue with your inference is there's no specific geopolitical reason why we would want to fund the Taliban. There's nothing that America gets out of that from a geopolitical standpoint. Any past terrorist funding, there's a very specific geopolitical reason why we were doing that. So because unless somebody comes up with one where there's actually a specific, like somehow there was a.
Can I present one?
Sure.
Here, I'll phrase this as a hypothetical question because we don't know, right? Hypothetically, let's say Jonah, right? You and your strapping dad. I only say that because you got like a really nice picture that I can barely see. It's this big, right? Let's say you guys were born into the Bilderberg family. You guys are billionaires, right? And let's say you're invited to these meetings that happen overseas. And let's say that there is a effort for the richest families. Like, let me ask you a different question to lead into this simple question. Do you believe that extremely wealthy families played a role in the shaping of the United States as we know it?
Yeah, probably. Yes. The founding fathers were all incredible, or not all of them, but a lot of them had money. Yeah.
But I'm going back, like, let's talk about, like, are you familiar with the Bilderberg family and how they got their wealth? Are you familiar with the Rothschild family?
I don't know specifically the Bilderberg family.
So no. I would just out of curiosity, this is historically information you can go and look up to see the way these extremely wealthy families funded wars, and they funded both sides of the war. This is historically proven. And because they funded both sides of the war, the monarchies or the leaders of those countries were now beholden to these families.
Yeah, so that's what the Rothschilds did in Europe.
That's what the Rothschilds did, correct. So when you go and you look at the Rothschilds, you look at these families, right? There's a small number of families who've been responsible for this. To be clear, these are the same families who started the Federal Reserve, right? This is the same people. So essentially what they do, okay, well, let's put an asterisk on that. Maybe, okay, cool. These are the same families who are ruling from the background. They funded both sides of the war hundreds of years ago so they could control what the countries did, because the countries were so in debt that if they called those debts due, countries would collapse. So the countries were dependent on the money holders. Well, if that's true, if the implication of that is accurate, then does that mean that the king or the queen is in control of the policy? Or are they only in control to the extent that the person holding the purse strings gives them that control? Hypothetically speaking.
Hypothetically, yeah.
Okay, so hypothetically, yes. We don't know this is true, but hypothetically, in this story where this has happened, if that continued and those same people continue to fund the progression of the world as we know it and the establishment of nations as we know them and the trade between those nations, then there is still a story that exists behind the scenes where maybe there are extremely wealthy people who are in charge. And the political thing that we're seeing in the front is kind of just that. That's what we're presented. There's a different story going on behind the scenes, and the people with the money make the rules, right? The man with the gold makes the rules, or whatever that saying is. So I think it's plausible that happens. There's lots of small examples throughout American politics today where you can see funding shape policy, right? A small example of that is lobbyists, but it goes much higher than that. Here's my point. Is it possible that those same families have a different plan for the country than we currently know it? And the answer is possibly. And so what I think is that those families have a different plan. So then my question to you is, you say, I don't see any reason geopolitically that there would be benefits to funding terrorism. To keep the country as we know it, functioning as we currently see it, I agree with you. However, if this hypothetical story that we're painting has any weight to it, and there are wealthy families behind the scenes, and their agenda supersedes the agenda of any given nation, then their agenda is what we should be measuring actions by, not what's best for America. And if their agenda is to eventually lead to a globalist economy or a one world government, then not only are they okay with destabilizing individual sovereign nations, they need to destabilize sovereign nations, because you couldn't have a global system with an independent rogue nation like the United States or any other country. That would impede that plan. So the question is, does that plan exist in the background? Is there evidence to that plan? If there is, then that actually paints an interesting picture that solves for a lot of these things. Why would you fund these nations who could use that to destabilize our country? Why would you inject a big virus into the country? Why would you inject money and then increase inflation and destabilize the dollar? Hypothetically, it actually, if that background narrative is true, this extremely hypothetical story, then it actually does paint a really clear picture. To be clear, President Bush Sr. was, I believe, one of the first presidents who discussed publicly the goal for a one world government or a globalist agenda. Multiple leaders of the UN have publicly discussed this, including American presidents. You can go and research that on your own. So the simple answer is, I don't know whether or not this is true. If it's true, then that's why they would do it. It doesn't benefit America geopolitically. It benefits a different place.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
How would I be able to differentiate if that hypothetical is true or if it was just incompetence?
That right there, Jonah, like, I mean, as literally as I possibly can. That, for me, that question is my favorite question you've ever asked. For me, that's the goal of this podcast, to ask questions like that. That's all I want to do. The answer is, I think the answer is, we don't research to prove our point. We research to prove ourselves wrong, right? And see where that information takes us. I think that's how we do it. I think that it's going to require us getting outside of traditional, right? I think this is how we do it. I am not a detective. If you're a detective and there's a murder, right? And let's say there's a family involved in this murder. Can you trust the people involved with the crime to tell you a true narrative of the crime?
No.
No. So then what you're going to have to do is you're going to have to piece together evidence that is largely incomplete. And then you find another incomplete piece of evidence. And then you find another incomplete piece of evidence. And then you hope that eventually enough of the breadcrumbs that you find paint a picture that starts to tell you what may have happened. Can you say with definitive proof your breadcrumbs are truth? No. Your goal isn't necessarily to say my breadcrumbs prove truth. No detectives is. Ideally, if you find that, that's what's called a smoking gun. But most detectives, I would assume, I am not a detective. If you know somebody, please have them fill me in. Most detectives don't build their career at solving cases based on finding open and shut evidence, based on getting clear confessions or finding smoking guns. They build their cases based on learning how to deduce breadcrumbs and allow enough breadcrumbs to paint a picture. One could argue our entire justice system is built on the backbone of one's ability to ignore what's being told to them, but deduce breadcrumbs and see if that picture lines up with the story that they're being told. And if it does, maybe they have the facts. If it doesn't, they need to find out which is lying, the breadcrumbs or the story. And for me, this is how I look at politics that's happening in our world. My concern is when anybody, pardon my dogs, my concern is with anybody, forget left, right, Democrat, Republican, forget all that stuff. My concern is with somebody who says, I know the family may have been involved in this murder, but I don't have any proof. So why wouldn't I just listen to them? I.e., mainstream media, i.e., what politicians tell me. Cool, that's cute. I appreciate your story. But I also know that you're probably implicated in this BS. So you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to take your story. I'm not going to assume you're wrong. I'm just not also going to assume that you're right. I'm going to leave you right there in the middle. And you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to go find my breadcrumbs. And I'm going to let my breadcrumbs paint a picture. And if that picture lines up with what you're saying, now maybe we have an idea that what you're saying is on the right track. But if it contradicts it, I need to ask myself, why on earth are these stories so different? Simply put, this is the world that we live in. And when you look at what's happening in this world, Jonah, this is what scares me the most. If we shut all the noise out about the narrative that's being told to us and started looking at the breadcrumbs, I would argue if we did this fairly and let go of our bias, which is hard, overwhelmingly hard, but if we did that and we just started putting the breadcrumbs together, what does this mean? It's really interesting. Why is there so much sex trafficking implicated with political people? That's odd, right? It's really odd. Like, we just ask, you're like, of all of the professions, you don't hear a bunch of firemen involved with sex trafficking. You don't hear, right? Why are these specific organizations so implicated with this particular? That's a breadcrumb. That's a breadcrumb that the news is going to tell me, no, we weren't there. We didn't do that. That's cool. But there's all these missing people and nobody knows where they are. And there's a lot of implications that points to political buildings, right? I think if we look at the breadcrumbs, bro, and understand that the breadcrumbs may not give me complete, they may not be the smoking gun, but they paint a picture. I think the picture we'll see will scare us, but I think it's also the truth. And that, for me, is how we should filter.
Here's how I feel about what you just said. Or here's what I think of what you just said. So there are things that are secretive and world government-y. I feel like the issue is that Quijano, like, here's my, like, and I hope you don't think this is insulting or anything.
No, bro,
how I see your filter is you see everything as related to a world government being the reason, right? When, in my opinion, there are certain times, like Epstein's Island, right? Like all these weird things, like with the Bohemian Grove, we've talked about it before. I was like, what the fuck is all this? Why are grown men like just all hanging out at a campsite? This is weird, right?
Naked, burning an effigy.
Yeah. Like all these things then point to Afghanistan being purposeful. That's like my issue with your general worldview, right? How I view it is we have to separate these things by whatever the evidence actually shows me. Just because politicians, it's really weird how politicians do sex acts, let's say. This might indicate that they want to create a world government in order to be pedophiles, right? Okay. There are pieces of evidence that you could argue relate to that. My issue with how your worldview, one of the biggest issues that I don't think I've ever said before, is you take that breadcrumb and then assume there are breadcrumbs on this part of the murder scene when there are no breadcrumbs, right? That's where I see your bias come out. And I just want you to, I'm not like trying, I hope that's not insulting.
No, bro. You're good, bro.
I just want you to know that like in the sense, because you think I'm incredibly biased and emotional or whatever. Okay. This is my main issue with your worldview, is that, like, for instance, with something as specific as Afghanistan, it's like, okay, I'm going to start this by, and it's just interesting, right? Because here's how I start with the evaluation. I'm going to start with, okay, what's the evidence I know about Afghanistan specifically and what happened? Here's what happened, right? There was a plan in action, right? That was set up by the Trump administration, right? Joe Biden took that plan too literally. There were things that the Taliban wasn't doing that was supposed to be in accordance with his plan. But he had a political goal of getting out of Afghanistan because that's something that we needed to do anyways. At some point, we need to get the fuck out of there. That, like, everyone agrees on that, right? I think Republican and Democrats agree on that. And then I think he rushed it and just did it terribly to a point where it's like, dude, like, what the like, come on, bro. Like, get the military equipment out of there. Don't just like immediately leave. Like, stand your ground until you do this in somewhat of an orderly fashion, right? Have you ever heard of Occam's razor before? So I'm going to just explain it to the audience real quick, because I don't think most people know about it. And I'm doing this off memory right now, so it might be better to watch like a video on it or something like that. It's a philosophical concept that generally, if you don't have evidence for a particular thing, and there are various possible explanations for a thing, and you have evidence that could point to many different things, more often than not, the truth is the simpler explanation. It's a philosophical thing, and we can get into that. We could watch a whole video. But generally, unless you have specific evidence for complicated things happening, usually in life, at least, the simpler thing is true, right? I'll give you like a really simple example. I have a banana, right? It went from yellow to brown, right? I could say that a monkey came into my room and painted it brown, right? And I didn't see the monkey. I didn't see the monkey painting my banana brown, right? It could have been that the banana was painted brown by a monkey, right? Occam's razor would say the simpler explanation is the banana rotted, because that's the simpler explanation to explain why a yellow banana turned brown. What I see you doing, Quijano, in my personal opinion, is you're saying the monkey is painting the banana brown like 9 times out of 10. And you give me examples of a monkey painting in a completely different area in order to prove that the monkey painted my banana brown. And that's the metaphor for how I see your worldview in a very funny example. And I'll just leave it at that.
Yeah, can I respond to that? Can I respond to that? Okay.
Yes,
so
sure.
First of all, fair point. I actually can see how you come to that conclusion. And I get that. So I'll address some of the things. First of all, I'm not linking necessarily. Sorry. I'm not necessarily linking, oh, well, because the pedophiles and owls, obviously Afghanistan. It's not that.
But it's
right?
like a little bit.
But what I'm doing is I'm summarizing an entire, potentially generations long thing into a 5 to 10 minute summary, right? You have to, you got to summarize, and that's going to leave gaps. So I get that. I can hear how that sounds like that. Occam's razor is a fantastic example. I understand the philosophical importance and correlation of that, but I think there's something that adds to that, which actually changes the paradigm of something like an Occam's razor, which is context. So I'll give you a simple example. I now have a bunch of new things growing in my backyard. The simplest example is that nature causes things to grow. And so what's happening is things are growing because that's what happens in nature. Can we agree that that is the simplest thing? Right?
Maybe. I think a simpler thing is you planted them. If it's something that's never been there before. Did you plant them? I actually don't know.
Exactly, that's exactly my point. In order to clarify what the simplest thing is, we need context. That is my point. Right there, that is my point. So what we will do, though, Jonah, is we will assume, here's the thing, and this is like, please hear me, bro. Please hear me, because I think you use a fantastic example. But what we do to determine what is the simplest conclusion is usually not what's simplest. It's what's simplest based on our perspective, our exposure to the context of the circumstance. So in order to accurately determine what is the simplest conclusion, we need context. The second you get context, you now realize actually what used to be the simplest conclusion is now a different conclusion because context changed what's simple. That's my point. So I think you do make a fair point.
We're saying the same thing. When you have, if you have evidence for something more complicated, then sure.
Here's the thing. There is as much, if not more, evidence from my perspective than there is for yours. I can tell you that with factual truth. I can. Jonah,
when it relates to Afghanistan?
No, when it relates to the narrative I was painting.
Well, no, but you were relating that back to Afghanistan.
Correct. But here's the thing.
So I want to clarify what you were saying. Sorry, I just want to make sure I understand.
No.
Are you saying that there's more evidence for your narrative in general? Are you saying there's more evidence for your narrative in relation to Afghanistan?
So my answer to that is to the narrative in general. Okay. And when you understand the narrative in general, you understand how simply it paints that actual answer for Afghanistan and what becomes the simplest conclusion. actually changes. So here's the reality. I'm fair enough to admit all this stuff that I've looked into, the information I've seen, the things that I've looked at over the years, I could be wrong. It's stuff on the internet. It's books. It's research. It's whatever, right? Now, sometimes it's firsthand accounts. There's a lot of information you can go to. This goes to a podcast we talked about how do you come to conclusions. But the reality is I'm willing to admit what I don't know because I look at things with the example that I gave you. It's the detective, right? The detective doesn't actually have all the facts. And they know that. What they have to do is to deduce information and have the mind that allows them to be able to accurately deduce something and allow that to paint a picture. And that's a skill set I think we need more of. And I think when you look at things through that lens, what you see changes. We want simple answers. And we want the answers that make us feel better about the world. And so what we will usually do is psychologically accept the answer that makes us feel best. Not even the one that makes most sense. We'll accept the one that makes us feel best. And this is why the left and right thing works so well, because the powers that be don't have to tell us the truth. They just have to tell us what makes us feel good. And they know that, which is why the news is designed the way it is. Because what they'll do is they'll get people like us arguing to defend some people who probably just lied to us. And that's silly. And I'm not saying I know what's right or wrong. If you notice, every question you've asked me has usually included I'm not sure, right? Almost every single one of them, because I'm not going to pretend to defend something I'm not really sure about. But what I will point to is the breadcrumbs, the evidence that says, I hear you, and I don't know that for sure, but then explain all these breadcrumbs. You're content with overlooking the breadcrumbs because the people you trust told you it's going to be okay. And I'm like, yeah, but that's cool, but there's still breadcrumbs.
I'm cool with looking at the breadcrumbs where the breadcrumbs are. The breadcrumbs are in the living room. I'm not going to just assume there are breadcrumbs in the kitchen now or in the bedroom. The knife is in the living room. Just because there's a knife in the living room doesn't mean I'm going to see that knife in the bedroom. That's like my issue when we're using the metaphor of the breadcrumbs. I agree that there are some really weird instances where I think really powerful people are trying to control the world, right?
So you think if the detective walks into the murder scene, they should just focus on the evidence in the living room and not check out the bedroom because the bedroom's unrelated?
What I'm asking for right now with Afghanistan is where's the evidence in Afghanistan? I'm saying Afghanistan is the room, right? So Afghanistan is the room. And then what you told me was, but don't you see the breadcrumbs in with the families? Don't you see the breadcrumbs with, the pedophiles, right?
No. I'm not asking you to buy into any of that. I'm not asking you. The question
but
that you
what
asked.
I'm saying is I actually see these breadcrumbs. I agree with you. Banks and powerful families try to control things. But the issue is they're trying to control things, and I'll take it. I'm going to go back to the metaphor, and then I'll bring it back to reality. They're trying to. They murdered someone. We're seeing a murdered body in the living room, right? We see a murdered body where in the War of 18, let's just say the War of 1812, the Rothschild tried to play both sides, whatever. So there's a murdered body in the living room. And now we're in Afghanistan, and this might be a bad example. I could give a better one. The Bohemian Grove. Weird shit happening in the Bohemian Grove. Seems like people trying to control the world. Seems really sus. Conspiracy theory, right? The Bohemian Grove is the living room. And then it's like, okay, what connects what's exactly happening with the Bohemian Grove to Afghanistan? What connects the murder that's in the living room to what's happening in Afghanistan? Like, where's the evidence that links that those things are related? Because they might not be related at all. That's what I'm trying to say. Is I actually agree with you on the breadcrumbs. I do think it's weird. I think political people are really into children, and I think they are trying to control world governments and stuff like that. My issue is that we're going to take that and apply it to everything in every single situation. You're muted.
I'm over here just talking to myself. My bad. That for me, that's a fantastic question. I think that's the right question. Here's the thing. I think what most people do is whatever is simplest. Occam's razor. And so what they'll say, I don't really see the correlation between weird stuff in Bohemian Grove and Afghanistan. So obviously there must not be one. That doesn't sound logical when you say it out loud, but when people refuse to continue to look for breadcrumbs, because it seems so far-fetched. That's literally the definition of bad detective work. Nobody cares if you think it's going to pan out. You follow the breadcrumbs, even if it seems illogical. Why is it taking me this direction? I don't know. Follow it and find out. But to say I'm not going to keep following it because it seems crazy is irresponsible, in my opinion. That's the hallmark of a bad detective, in my opinion, as not being a detective, right? I think that the right thing to do is follow the breadcrumbs where they take you, even if you don't think it makes sense, and let the breadcrumbs tell you if it's that outlandish. Here's the thing. Simple breadcrumbs tell me if the people that are doing weird stuff at this place are the same people that are responsible for making policy decisions in that country. I just found the link. What are those people doing? And what is that conversation? Now, is that link conclusive? No, but it is a link because those same naked people in front of the burning owl are responsible for signing off on the policy decisions that happened in Afghanistan. And that's a fact because those are senators and congressmen and people in position of power, right? So if we're using your example to say that it's really, really weird that it's going to go from here to Afghanistan, and I would argue two things. One, if you're going to really try to understand truth, just let the information speak for itself. Stop stopping the information because it seems outlandish. That's the definition of confirmation bias. Confirmation bias will make us turn a blind eye to information that seems foreign to us. No, that's crazy. I'm not going to look at that. No, that's crazy. I'm not going to do this. That's literally why cognitive dissonance is a thing. Cognitive dissonance is the definition of that is your brain can't handle, so you shut it down. That's what cognitive dissonance is. Your brain can't handle the influx of this information because it's so challenging to your paradigm. Your brain shuts it off and says, nope, can't be true. Okay, cool. Well, then just understand you're no longer operating in truth. You're operating in something else, right? So my first point is if you want to follow truth, you got to follow it where it takes you, even if you don't like where it takes you. And even if it seems as crazy as owls in Afghanistan, right? But then the second point that I'll make is once you start doing that, you start to realize it's actually not as far as you think because you started using an exceptionally outlandish example to prove how crazy your point was. But when you think about the example, you actually realize it's not that crazy because those same crazy people you were talking about, air quotes around crazy because we don't know what they're doing and why necessarily, are actually connected politically to that decision. So when you look, it's actually not that crazy. So that for me, I'm not expecting people. I didn't start thinking about this stuff because I was into some weird conspiracy crap.
Yana, can I ask you another question?
Yeah, of course.
Based on that logic, wouldn't you say that no matter what happened in Afghanistan, then it's part of the world government? Like literally anything could have happened in Afghanistan. It could have gone well. It could have gone poorly. It could have gone mediocre. It could have gone literally whatever happened in Afghanistan. That means based on your logic, you link it to the world government. So
here's the thing. I do. This is why I think Trump's the outlier. Because I suspect, I genuinely believe, and I don't know this, I could be wrong. To be clear, I could be wrong. I just don't think he's on their side. The evidence shows he's not on their side. This is why even Republicans don't like him. Because Republicans and Democrats are on the same team. We just don't want to accept it, right? They've always been on the same team. They're playing for the same team.
Republican candidate. What do you mean Republicans don't like it? You mean like senators?
Over the years, how many people have used the fact that a lot of Republican politicians do not endorse or support Trump? How many times has that been a Democratic talking point? He's such a problem that even the Republicans don't support him. His own party isn't behind him. How many times have we heard him say that?
I mean, some Republicans, not many, but anyways, whatever. Go on.
Yeah, neither here nor there.
We don't have to argue about that, but
yeah. So again, asterisk. Who knows? I could be completely wrong about all this stuff. Once again, I'm looking at bread.
That didn't really answer my question, though.
No, I'm going to answer it. So my point is, to your point, I agree because I believe the great majority of the people involved are on the team of this particular agenda. I just think they left, right, all that stuff. I think they're all on the same team, right? However, I do think that Trump is an outlier. And I wonder if the fact that they are so against him getting into power is evidence of the fact that he's the one person in a position of power who's not on that team. The fact that he literally, if you listen, he actually implies a lot of this stuff. If you listen, he actually implies a lot of this stuff in what he's saying. He's calling it Dream in the Swamp. He says these people want to destroy. He said it in the debate last night. To be clear, guys, they don't want you to have a country. They want to remove this country. If you let them stay, the country will not be in existence. Right?
Keanu,
That,
wait, go back to. Sorry, but
no, go ahead.
We're not talking. Just leave Trump aside for a second. I just want to stick on this point of Afghanistan just for a second because I think it clarifies something that I think I'm worried about for you, because I truly believe you want to know the truth. So I want you to just think about this. You don't even necessarily need to have an answer. The issue that I see with your reasoning, where I see the pedophiles, I see Bohemian Grove, these are the exact same people who decided the Afghanistan decision. So I think it was purposeful.
That's not the exact line of my answer. You're piecing a lot
Sorry.
together. That's fine.
I'm doing my best to recreate your argument. Like, excuse me, you correct me wherever you want to correct me.
Sure.
Right? Because I'm honestly just trying to make this point, right? No matter what happened in Afghanistan, then it was because of the world government, right? And then if that's true, if anything could have happened in Afghanistan, right? And then Quijano rationalizes, because it's the same people, that it's because it serves the world government agenda, then we don't actually, then all it does ever is reinforce the world that you believe that the world.
I hear you, with one exception.
And there's no way to falsify your own belief. There's no way I could ever prove you wrong, right?
Sure, you could.
Based how?
That the plan that I'm believing that I'm seeing play out doesn't play out. I was wrong.
With Afghanistan, or which one?
No, with the overall agenda to just get America and not have it be America anymore.
Okay. So
if 15, 20 years from now, Democrats stay in charge and America is still the land of the free and the home of the brave, guess what? I was probably overwhelmingly wrong. Overwhelmingly wrong.
Okay. So apart from the future, which I can't predict the future.
Sure.
What could I show you now that would show you that the government, that it's not the world government, it's just whatever, like everything has its own different reasons, right? What I'm worried about is, I think what I'm trying to say, and I hope you are getting it. I don't know if I'm being clear about the Afghanistan point. That no matter what happens in Afghanistan, Quijano thinks it's because of the world government. If there's no way to falsify your own beliefs now, because I can't. Well, your answer to me was like, let's see what happens in 15 years. Then it's like, okay, but then we'll never know now. How could you falsify your own beliefs right now to be like, hey, maybe I am wrong?
I'm going to answer that question, but let me ask you. I'm going to ask you one sidebar question real quickly.
Sure.
You think it's important for me to potentially at least be open to falsifying my beliefs in case they're not correct, right? That's the implication of that question. What are you doing to falsify yours in case they're not correct?
For me, this is what I believe about my beliefs, right? You obviously don't think this is what I'm doing. This is what I believe I think I'm doing, right?
Okay.
You and I would just have to argue about it constantly. You and I, this is like not this part, how the inner workings of my mind, you and I are just going to disagree. There's no way to prove why Jonah's doing what Jonah's doing, right?
Sure.
There's no way to prove
I can take your word for it, right?
You could, but you're not. And that's fine. I don't care if you take my word for it or not, right? It's okay. I don't really care that much. But what I think I'm doing, this is what I believe I'm doing, is that everything that I believe is based on any evidence that I see. So for instance, let's take the Kamala busing people, whatever the fuck. If you showed me evidence that Kamala is busing people in and paying them, I'm going to be like, damn, well, there actually is evidence for this claim, and this is probably true. You think that I'm filtered and emotional and all the things you were saying earlier in this podcast? That's fine. In my opinion, the only thing you need to do in order to falsify my beliefs is show me evidence of something, right? That's how I think I come up with my beliefs, right? So if you show me evidence that what I'm saying is bullshit, then I'm going to change my opinion. That's what I think I do. You obviously don't think that's what I do, and that's okay. So to answer your question, how would you falsify my beliefs? All you'd have to do is show me.
I wouldn't want to. I'm asking you how you are attempting to do that for yourself.
Well, my beliefs come from whatever evidence I'm seeing.
And so
if I see evidence of something, then I make the belief from that. I try to keep my bias out. I see a piece of evidence, and then I say, okay, this makes me believe X, right? So I'm not constantly trying to falsify my beliefs. I'm constantly looking for evidence and seeing where it goes. And then my beliefs come from the specific evidence that I'm seeing in any given moment, right? I'm not going to connect. So to bring it back to, like, for instance, your example, right? Like, let's talk about, if we want to go to the world government, right? I see evidence for pedophilia and with politicians and actors, and it's disgusting. And I see that, right? Now, I don't connect that to necessarily being the world government. I truly don't know why this is happening with that specific piece of evidence, but it's disgusting, and we need to be aware of that this is a problem, right? With Jeffrey Epstein's Island. I see Jeffrey Epstein being claimed that he killed himself. What the fuck? No, he didn't. That was very obvious. I see the evidence. He didn't kill himself, right? But that doesn't mean I think everything is the world government. It just means this one piece of evidence seems to be related to something like a world government type of thing. I'm not going to extrapolate when I see no evidence like that for Afghanistan that that's related to the same world government, just because it's the same person, because of the issue that I presented before, what I was talking about. If I constantly am saying it's the same person in all of these things, therefore world government, then I'll never know whether it's actually the world government, because no matter what happens in Afghanistan, I'm going to automatically be like, well, it's the same person, so world government. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I think no, it makes perfect sense to me. It makes absolute perfect sense.
Are you guys understanding me? I felt like that was very complicated. I don't know how communicative.
That makes sense to me. Did that make sense to you guys? I thought that made perfect sense to me, and I actually understand where you're coming from. Here's the only couple things that I'll challenge to that. One, I think you're conflating proof for one thing has to equal proof for everything. It doesn't. Two things can be connected, but so far removed from one another that their truth is in a vacuum. Hence breadcrumb, right? Two pieces of bread crumbs that we see may have both come from the same slice of bread. But when you put them together...
wait, hold on. So like one common ancestor could have been... Sorry, go on. I just wanted to bullshit for a second. I couldn't help myself.
That was a good try.
Wait, Quijano.
No, but so here's my point, right? Like the argument I think you're trying to accomplish is like, well, I found one breadcrumb and I found another breadcrumb, but when I put them together, they're not a slice of bread. Well, they're not supposed to be. And I think that's the first thing we have to accept. Finding multiple breadcrumbs does not a bread slice make. That's just not the way it works. You're not going to reconstruct the bread in that fashion. If that's your goal, you're going to be discounting the crumbs every time you find them because you're looking for the wrong outcome. Finding a breadcrumb doesn't equal the slice. It just equals evidence that there was at least bread at one point. Can we agree with that?
Yeah.
So that's my point. When you have these conversations, you're like, yeah, but when I see these two things, I don't see how they connect. And what I'm saying is they don't need to. They don't need to create the slice of bread. But if they're evidence that they're both crumbs from potentially the same slice at some point, fantastic. That means there was bread in the freaking house. That's all I'm looking for. If there's no breadcrumbs at all whatsoever, maybe I'm making something up. I don't know. That's a different conversation. But it's naive to think that because there's a piece of bread, a crumb, obviously everything that I'm seeing in this crumb must be true. It's also naive to think that, well, there's a breadcrumb. I don't see the bread, so there probably wasn't ever any bread there. Well, that's stupid. You're denying your own logic. This is what I think people mean when they refer to the left saying, bro, like it's in your eyes and you're admitting you don't see it. It's the bread. But you're not denying that the crumb's there. You're just not looking for the crumb. You're looking for the
on it?
crumb to make a slice, and when it doesn't, you're throwing the whole breadcrumb out. So my first issue with your concern, I agree with your point. I just think that that expectation is wrong. I think we should be content with accepting that a breadcrumb is just a breadcrumb. I'm gonna put it over here and see if it means something else. Let me grab another one and see if it means something else. And I think that eventually that paints a different picture. Right?
So can I see if I understood in the metaphor?
Sure.
If I understand you correctly, I think your whole overarching point is Jonah, and you didn't say it in these words, but tell me if this is it. Jonah, I've seen so many goddamn breadcrumbs all over the fucking place that, okay, I don't see necessarily, or maybe I see a slightly different, I don't really see any breadcrumbs here, but I see so many breadcrumbs that it makes sense that it's from the same bread at this point.
Almost.
That's somewhat.
No, that's not quite, but almost. So I'll give you an example, right? Let's define breadcrumbs a little bit more clearly. This is concerning. This turned into a conspiracy podcast, but we got to finish this out. Otherwise, there's no context.
Let's end it at 2:30.
Okay, so Jonah, I'm gonna refer to Jasper because Jasper and I.
I'm gonna be listening. I'm bringing my speaker, but like it is so hot in here. I gotta turn
your AC on.
Yeah.
It's okay. Do you not live in your house with your air conditioner? Like, what do? You just live there in the heat for no reason? He's not even responding.
There's something called at certain points in time, it's not hot, and then what happens over time is it gets
out here
hotter,
turning your AC
and
off?
then no, I'm turning it on. So when it's not hot, I actually don't keep the AC on, and then once it starts getting hot, then I turn it on. So that's how I live my life. So okay.
I just leave that bitch on all the time, and it's just a jump in temperature.
Okay. You live in New Mexico. It's fucking.
So here is I'll try to wrap with that, Jonah. Jasper. So Jasper, I'll bring up Jasper because Jasper and I have had these conversations a lot, and this will be my best way of pointing this out. To be clear, I didn't start on the road. Exactly, Galaxy Bird. I agree. Of like conspiracy theories. Fun fact: 20 years ago, I used to make fun of people who believed in conspiracy theories. I would laugh at them. I actually had a family member who used to come to my house, and they used to watch weird conspiracy videos on my computer, and I'm like, why are you watching that? That's stupid. Stop it. You look silly. Shut it off. It was in my research of completely unrelated things that it brought me back to really interesting information that also happened to be called conspiracy theories. And I was like, oh, maybe I shouldn't have been mocking them because breadcrumbs. There's enough of this information out there. It means something, right? So I'll give you an example. You ever heard of a little thing called MK Ultra?
I have.
Right? Do you know anything about it at all?
No, I mean, what I vaguely remember is the CIA did experiments with acid on people. I think so much so that they like went crazy. Am I wrong? Right? It's something.
Yeah,
like
so the attempt was mind control. They wanted to see if they could control people's minds.
It was something like that. It was something crazy like that.
Correct. Are you familiar with Project Paperclip?
If I remember correctly, that was the one with all the documents relate. No, I don't want to guess it. Just tell me. It's been so long. I've heard it before,
so this was the proof that during the World War II, instead of executing the leaders of the Nazi Party for their crimes against humanity, they just gave them all passes and brought them to the United States and gave them jobs.
Well, they gave some of them jobs. That's confirmed.
A lot of them. The great majority of all of them. Of the head scientists of the Nazi Party, right?
Yeah,
so
because they wanted to, because they're like, well, you guys are smart. I want to beat the Soviets.
Correct. And then NASA was born. Mm-hmm. That's where NASA was born from. German scientists that used to work for Hitler. I don't know if anybody knows this. These are all facts. Here's the fun part. 100% of these were conspiracy theories for decades. Also, fun fact, it is largely believed that, do you know where the term conspiracy theory came from?
No.
The CIA. The CIA coined the term conspiracy theory as a way to minimize and make the people who were claiming to be victims of MK Ultra look crazy. The CIA, who was overseeing the experiments to try to do mind control on American citizens using many things, including hallucinogenic drugs, when the people who were guilty or who were victims of these tests tried to come forward, they had to figure out some way to make them look crazy. And so they came up with this term called conspiracy theorist. And that term was used to diminish their words so people would stop paying attention to them. Oh, they're just a conspiracy theorist. Don't listen to them. Fun fact, how well that still worked. So what we know is that the person who started MK Ultra started his work in Nazi Germany, right? On people that were in concentration camps. These were where these things started. They were literally torturing Jewish people, doing mind control experiments on them. And when they were supposed to execute those people, rather what they did instead of executing them was they brought them to the United States, had them start those exact same tests on American citizens. The transferring of them, which was called Project Paperclip, people were called conspiracy theorists. The people who were victims of the mind control experiments were also called conspiracy theorists. Decades later, we find out, oh crap, that was all true. For decades, these people were tortured, lives destroyed. And they were called conspiracy theorists and crazy because the government lied to them. Before that, moving people who were supposed to be executed for crimes against humanity and using them in our American government was an atrocity against a lot of different things, but it was lied to. And then all of a sudden we found out that it was true, right? The war on drugs. Do you understand about the history of the war on drugs?
Yeah, of course.
You understand where those drugs came from?
Yeah, the United States government. They planted cocaine in black neighborhoods. Like, yeah, I know, I get it. Crack cocaine.
They
Yeah,
dropped the pallets.
yeah.
People in the hood were like, yo, why are all these guns and pallets of money and drugs getting dropped off in the neighborhood? Now they're selling drugs to each other, shooting each other. Not many years later, now there's a war on drugs, right? Another conspiracy theory that was proven to be true. What's the point? The point is there is a pattern, at least in the government, where they will do things that are seemingly disgusting for whatever motives they deem appropriate. I think we could all agree Hitler scientists, tests on humans in the United States, all disgusting acts, right? Horrible things that they did, atrocities against humanity, some could argue. Cool. War on drugs, atrocities against humanity, marginalization of disenfranchised, all of this stuff we know is true. But we also know our government did it and then lied to our freaking faces about it. And here's the worst part. People knew. Why did they know? Breadcrumbs.
So Keanu question. So, okay. Here's what I think you're doing that's a false logical thing. Personally, Here's what I think you're doing. You can tell me if you think I'm wrong or right.
Sure.
So let's take any of these conspiracy theories. Like this is going to be, I'm going to be curious what you think.
Sure.
So let's take MK Ultra, right?
Okay.
Let's say, for the sake of argument, hypothetically, there are 0 breadcrumbs. Let's say we're in 1950s. You just come up to me and you're like, bro, the government's doing mind control on people, giving them acid, all of it. Everything you just said, right? Let's just say 1950s. It's not released yet, right? You're just telling me it, right? Let's say for now, just for the beginning of this, hypothetically, you tell me all of that. As someone, this is the first thing that I've heard about, right? You just come up and tell me, right? Should I believe you? Should I believe you with having no evidence? It's a true fact. It is actually happening. But from the perspective of the person who has no evidence, should they believe you?
That's the fantastic question. Like when we talked about doing a podcast on how we make decisions, how we process information and decide what's true and false. That's the right question. I think that's a great philosophical question. Should we believe that person? Well, then I think the answer to that is, how do you filter information? If you filter information through the lens that I have no reason to believe this person is wrong, as crazy as this sounds, let me see what they got. I think it sounds crazy, but let me objectively hear all of the information before I make a judgment. That's one option.
Sure. That's what I think you should do, right?
But what do most people do? Nah, that's crazy. I'm not listening to that. And they dismiss it. And then they write that person off, categorize them in their head as an unstable person,
Well, can
and
I
then
tell
we'll
you
feel
what I think?
comfortable mocking that person.
Can I answer my own question now? Here's what
Yeah,
I
by all
would
means.
think you should do. I think you should say, okay, do you have any evidence for that? And then if they say no, then I think you should write them off until they give you evidence. That's
And I
my
disagree.
answer to that.
I disagree. Because
Okay,
here's
so
the thing.
that's the interesting thing, because here's the thing. So now let's switch the hypothetical a little bit. Let's say the exact same so let's say exact same person. This time they said the government nuked New York City, right? It's nuked, it's gone, right? Right? It's just gone. Something that's completely false, right? And then you go to that person and you say, okay, do you have any evidence for this?
Mhm.
And then they say no. At that point, it's why, like, you don't have any evidence for it. It hasn't happened. Nuking New York City, that's a different one, because I could then go and I could literally call someone in New York City. I got to think of a better example. Let's choose another conspiracy theory, right? Let's choose, let's just take MK Ultra, where this time it's like, I don't know, that let's just choose one. Let's choose a conspiracy theory that a lot of people believe. Jews control the world, right? I don't know where you stand on this one. I really don't want to get into whether you think this is real or not, right? Personally, right now, I just don't want to do it. I will fight. I need that one to be like an evidence one. I don't want to get into this specific claim, right? I think it's blatantly false that Jews control the world, that it's like a combined Jewish propaganda, whatever, right? So let's go into this. You tell me Jews control the world, right? And I say, okay, what's the evidence? You say you have no evidence whatsoever. Why am I going to take the time to research a claim you don't have any evidence for whatsoever? Like, why not just come back to me? And once you have evidence, then it's like, okay, now you have evidence. Now I need to see what's true and what's not true.
Can I answer? Because you've asked two questions in different ways. Can I answer them?
Sure.
Here's my answer to that. Let's go back to your first example, and then I'll answer this. And this should be a really simple way to answer this. My first point is this, bro. You said that for the person who was claiming that they were a victim of mind control experiments by the government, they don't have proof. You have the right to write them off. Okay. Fast forward, you find out they were right the whole time. What you told me in summary is that I was justified in making the wrong decision.
You are.
What's your focal point? Whether or not you were justified or whether or not you did the right thing.
You're justified because
but what's more important to you? Being justified and making the wrong decision, or simply making the right decision, even if it inconveniences you?
No. What you want to do is know the truth. That's ideally what you want to do, right?
But it doesn't sound like
if there's no evidence for the truth at all, like if there's actually no evidence for what is actually true, then at that point there's nothing. Like, how do I explain this? I
hear you, but
I got to think about how I'm going to try to respond to you.
But let me finish my point. Let me finish my answer to you, right? So here's my point, and I think you actually brought up a great point, and I think that that's the right answer. I think the right answer is that you need to look for truth. The answer, Jonah, is in the question. And this is what I love about this example. I'm glad we came here, because we go back and forth so many times on things we can't prove. In this situation, the answer is in the question. The proof is there. It's just a matter of how we look at the proof. You said your goal was truth. I would argue that your actions say otherwise, because if your goal was truth, we know what the truth was. The truth was this person was telling you the truth. Truth existed irrespective of readily available evidence, which means that if you're telling the truth, if you're being honest right now, when you say that truth is your goal, then you have to acknowledge that what you're saying is, well, hold on, let me finish this point.
Sorry, it just clicked in my head why that doesn't work. I get it now, though. Keep going,
Okay,
sorry.
yeah, and that's my like. Here's my point, man. Like the point is, and I think what you just explained is what most of us do, and this is something I learned the hard way about myself, and have intentionally tried to not be this way, because what you said was, "I want the truth."
No,
What you
wait,
meant was, "I want you to prove it to me." I don't
I
want
thought
you don't
about
want
it.
truth.
I know the perfect way to answer this. Okay, so let's change this a different way.
Okay,
A person comes up to you.
F my
right?
points then. All right, go ahead.
A person comes up to you and they say, Jonah, if you jump off this bridge, you'll get $1 million, right? Let's assume that's true. Just for a second, let's just assume like he's not bullshitting me. I actually do get $1 million after I jump off this bridge, right? He hasn't given me any evidence that he's going to give me any money. He hasn't given me any evidence whatsoever he's going to give me money, but it actually is true that when I jump off the bridge, I get $1 million, right? Mm-hmm. Should I investigate that claim, or should I write him off and be like, bro, like you've given me nothing. You haven't given me any evidence. I have no idea if you're actually going to give me the money. Should I actually then write him off, or should I immediately start investigating when he has no evidence? He's never gonna, you can investigate, you can start asking him questions and be like, hey, give me some evidence. Like, do you have $1 million in your bank account? He says, nope, got nothing, no evidence. Should I still jump or not? Right?
Here's what's interesting to me about
that's
this.
Where that clicked in my head is that's what the issue is then you are, what you're going to do most of the time is believe or think it's possible that a lot of false things could be true. Right?
Can I respond now?
Sure. But that's the issue. That's the answer to your question, by the way, of like why I think it's actually makes sense to disregard them, is because you're going to start believing things that are definitely false are possible. Does that make sense? I don't know if I explained that well.
It makes sense.
We got to end this at some point, but I'll let you respond. I'll let you get the last word, and then we got to end this.
Okay. Here's what's interesting to me, because you didn't do a better job at clarifying. You just did a better job at giving an example that serves your pre-existing idea, right? In your mind, you were trying to come up with a way to justify why blindly trusting something that seems outlandish as a claim is a bad idea, right? And so you came up with this crazy outlandish idea to give a justification why this isn't smart. And this is my point, bro. Whether you realize it or not.
This is what I agree with. Just FYI. I agree with you, Big Bird. Just going to throw it out there. This is what I'm saying. But anyways, keep going.
Yeah, and I disagree with that. And I'll tell you why. I'll explain why.
Like Big Bird, I agree with you. And Kehanu's saying he disagrees with you. So just FYI.
Well, let me say, she said, they said, let it sit. So I think let it sit. Look, I'll address that. I don't necessarily disagree. I read that wrong. So here's the point. You came to this story, and please hear me, Jonah, please hear me, bro. You came to this story with an idea that you wanted to present a reason why it's safe to distrust first. You presented a metaphor that didn't serve your argument. And while I was trying to explain to you why there were obvious holes in that reasoning, you interrupted me multiple times while I was proving my point to use a different example that better serves your argument. But it doesn't better prove your point. It just makes it easier for you to present your argument for your point, even if your point isn't the right one. Does that make sense? So here's what I mean. Here's what I mean. You gave some example. Oh, well, if he's going to give me $1 million and I have no proof and he's going to jump off a bridge. Okay. If you're going to come with that crazy of an example, I hear you. Why you wouldn't end your life on a hypothetical. But that's just you doing a fantastic job of coming up with the most outlandish version of why it's a good idea to not be open-minded. But the reality is you use an example that's also not realistic, because none of what I'm presenting by way of being open-minded is a life-ending decision, right?
The consequences of that are way higher.
Correct. But here's the cool thing. We don't need a hypothetical because we're using real life examples. And using your real life example, you're trying to generate to me a valid reason why it's okay to write someone off until they can prove it to you. And what I'm saying is that's just not right. Now, should you do that or not? I can't tell. You're a grown man. I can't tell anybody in this podcast how to process information and how they should treat people when people present new information. I can't. I'm not qualified to do this. It's not my place. I can simply tell you how I choose to process information and what I believe is the most effective way to increase in our own understanding, right? When you gave your example, Jonah, you gave the example of a person who was a victim of MK Ultra coming to you and saying, hey, I'm a victim. And your words were, where's the proof? They didn't have the proof. You write them off as a crazy person until they can prove otherwise, right? That's what you said. I hear you. I understand the reasoning behind that. But the problem is you were wrong. Here's the other problem. You said our goal should be truth, but that's not what you meant. You like the idea of believing that you're searching for truth, but that's not what you're searching for. You're searching for someone to prove your current belief wrong. Otherwise, you're just going to believe what you already believe.
No.
That's what you're searching for. Now,
No, they need to
here,
prove that what they say is true.
but here's the thing. If your goal was truth, was what they were saying true or not?
In this case, it was true. But if I came, let's say I chose the false
for this. No, I'm not going hypothetical. We're going real because I want to use
the Ultra one. Yes, in this case, I was wrong.
So it was true. So if your goal was searching for truth, was your decision to write them off until they found proof the right decision or the wrong decision?
If my goal was truth, was my decision in this moment wrong or right? No, in this moment, in this particular one, I was wrong.
Correct. So then here's my question. If your goal is truth, the right decision would have been approach the situation with an open mind and then make decisions once you have information, correct? What you're telling me is I'm going to make my decision.
Well, you shouldn't make
that's not what you're saying. You're saying
they give me some evidence.
But you're saying you already writing them off, you're making a decision. So I agree with you. You shouldn't make.
What I'm saying to them is, until you provide me evidence, I'm writing you off.
That's
Once
a decision.
you provide me evidence, then I'm going to listen to you.
That's it, and that's my point, right? And so I'll use this example, and then we'll wrap up, and I'll circle back to this point. And this is where. So the reason I got onto all, I've talked about this before, right? I was in ministry for a very, very long time. There was a period. It's a long time ago, right? Going on 20 years ago, actually about 20 years ago. Where I got to the point where I started in faith, some really crazy experiences. There was no question on whether the spiritual stuff was real. If I told you the stuff, you're like, all right, I can see how you believed it. It was crazy stuff. Okay, I go into this faith thing full all the way in. Like I'm talking about, like I was about as crazy of a Bible thumper as you could believe.
Born again virgin, right?
Yes, I was all of that, right? So what I did was I got to the point where questions were arising, but I'm a new believer, and I'm thinking that if I'm asking questions, I'm questioning God. I don't have faith. God's going to hate me, and he's going to strike me with lightning bolt. I don't want to get struck with lightning.
You are questioning God, and he hates you for it.
And he hates me. He hates me. That's what I thought, right? And so I got to this point where I was like, nah, F this. Either I'm doing this wrong, or everything that I believe about this is BS, and I'm about to find out. And I went on a journey to almost essentially try to prove all of that stuff wrong. I won't go into the story of what I learned, but here's one of the first things I learned. The first thing I learned, Jonah, and this was hard to learn, is that confirmation bias is a bitch. What I've found myself doing time and time again is I would look at information and I would filter it through what I already believed. And I would write off or validate information based on what I already believed. And I kept catching myself doing this. And I'm like, why do I keep doing this? Like, I read this and I'm like, nah, that's stupid. I'm like, but wait, why is it stupid? And then I realized, wait, it's just because it disagreed with what I originally thought. Or I automatically agree with something. I'm like, whoa, why am I agreeing with something? Because it was what I already thought. So here's my point. What I learned early on is this is a habit I created for myself to stop confirmation bias. What I learned is very quickly, Jonah, very simply. If you want to study to confirm what you already believe, it'll be the easiest thing on the planet. you can Google it. Whether or not it's true is irrelevant. If you want to confirm what you already believe, you can do that in 5 seconds. Google something you believe and you'll find the proof for it, period. If you want to prove what you believe, it's already the easiest thing to do. Confirmation bias is a problem, and that does not lead to truth if your goal is truth, right? And so I realized if that's not my goal, I have to come up with a different method. So I changed my method. You know what I did? I stopped trying to prove myself right. I started to prove myself wrong. That was it. It was the only way I could stop letting confirmation bias get in my way of the research. And so what I started doing is saying, okay, here's what I think about this situation. Let me find all of the evidence that refutes it, everything that refutes it. And what I would do is when I found the thing that had the least amount of conflicting evidence that proved it wrong, I didn't say that's true. I just put it on the table. This took way longer. But what I found is that what I was able to learn did two things, right? And this is where I'm going to wrap this up. What I was able to learn did two things. One, it challenged my paradigm overwhelmingly because I was seeing stuff I would have never in a million years allowed myself to be exposed to. Why? Because I wasn't looking for that information. I was looking for stuff that made me feel good, that was familiar, that confirmed what I believe. But when I was allowing myself to prove my own beliefs wrong, I was left with some stuff I never imagined I would be finding. And that was really, really interesting. It was also scary because it makes you feel like everything I think I know about the world could be wrong. This is weird. Am I going crazy? Right? But what I also learned is that it made me really good at accepting things that sound crazy. Now, this goes back to my original point.
Yeah, but why are you accepting it? Why aren't you
not accepting it as fact,
okay,
accepting it as possible?
Okay.
That's it. So now this goes back to your point. And this is the difference. Here's an intellectual fact that you cannot refute about what you just said for your own conclusions, bro. You said your goal was truth. Yet because the person couldn't provide proof, you wrote them off, even though what they were saying was true. Intellectually, your argument conflicts with itself. It proves that your goal is not truth. Your goal was proof. Otherwise, you were going to write it off. Two different goals. And what I learned in this journey is that if I wanted truth, I had to let go of feeling comfortable. I had to let go of preconceived ideas, and I had to let go of this idea, prove it to me or I'm not going to believe you. Whether you want to accept it or not, that mindset simply says, I am so vested in my current worldview, you have to convince me to see the world differently. Now, when we say it like that, hold on, let me finish my point. I'm almost done. When we say it like that, Jonah, it sounds different because most people don't want to come out of their mouth and say, yep, I'm just convinced that my worldview is right, and I'm not going to believe otherwise until you prove me wrong. No one wants to say that because we like to think that we're open-minded. But the fact remains, Jonah, if you stand on the position that you are going to refute outlandish perspectives unless they have irrefutable evidence to present to you to make you open-minded.
Any evidence.
Okay, any evidence. And if that is your stance, then you are saying, I am not going to change my worldview unless you can prove me that I need to change it. That is the opposite of being open-minded.
But then Quijano, what that means is then MK Ultra, from the perspective, MK Ultra in this case is just as valid as you having an invisible spaghetti monster on top of your head, because I don't have evidence for either of them. And so the question is, what do we do? We could investigate every single claim ever. Okay. That's kind of what you're saying is we should investigate every single claim ever. And then it's like, okay.
No, I don't think that's the right answer either. I don't think that's the right answer either, because I don't think everything is worth our time. Right. So, I mean, I hear conspiracy crap all the time. I don't chase it down. How many times, you know how much research I've done into flat earth? Zero. Why? Not really worth my time.
Okay.
I've seen some really interesting information out there. In my opinion, this does not have any bearings on my particular life right now. So I'm not really going to take the time to do the research on it. Right. Okay, cool. I hear you. You're really passionate. There are literally millions of people who strongly believe they can present evidence. Okay, cool. Maybe you can. I don't know. So I'm just going to leave that situation alone. I don't know about it.
I guess then my question is like, So for Afghanistan, right, because we don't know whether that's true or not, why do we assume that it is the world government? Why don't we say,
Because
don't
that's
know
topic I
whether
have
it's
done
the
the
world
research
government? On Afghanistan
Not
specifically?
not on Afghanistan, but on the overall direction of our
Okay,
country.
we'll leave. I'm down to leave it there. You made your point, right? Can we wrap this up? What are we doing next week? Do you want to do the truth one next week? I feel like that would be an interesting one, and we keep talking about politics a lot.
Crazy happening. Yeah, this is not a political podcast, by the way, guys. Let's do it. Show us something really crazy happening. Let's do it. I think it fits to this conversation, right? Like, if like the what we're talking about,
we talked about the debates at all. We got into like a crazy philosophical conversation. We barely. I mean, we maybe spent like an hour on it, but
my opinion, bro. Here's the thing: people will disagree with me.
My opinion: the world government owns all of you. Sorry,
that's Jonah's opinion. The question on how you can prove, so Jasper, the simple answer to that, bro, is that I think it starts with how are you willing to do it. I think that for me, Jonah's approach is prove it to me, or I'm not going to be open-minded. And I hear that. I'm not saying it's necessarily wrong. I just don't think
that's not my goddamn approach. My approach is if you have to show me evidence, not like prove it. Show me any evidence. Show me like there's something, right?
Jonah, anyway, I love you, bro. If they showed you evidence, you would just say that's stupid. I need more evidence. That's not true. I need more evidence.
The cats and dogs thing. Here's where I'm at with the cats and dogs things. By the way, you got me from
eating cats and dogs. Okay.
Yeah, eating cats and dogs. You got me from absolutely not to okay. There's a video that they showed of them eating cats and dogs. I'm at I don't know. Right now, because now I need to go verify the evidence you've shown me, right? So just FYI, once you show me some evidence, I am going to move my perspective. Right now, I'm at I don't know about cats and dogs. I do not know, right?
Yeah, so let's do final. Okay, so next week, here's the thing, and then we'll give our final options on this. So when it comes to next week, we're talking about how do we determine what truth is. I think this is a decent segue. We can shoot for that. Short of something crazy happening. I think it'll be cool.
Yeah, I agree.
My opinion is that understanding that information is more important than understanding who told the truth at the political debate. That's just my opinion. Some people may disagree with that. As for the debate itself, it was definitely a 3v1. I said that last night. It was definitely a 3v1. For me, Jonah, that is an interesting question. Why is the media so clearly on the Democratic side and so clearly against the Republican side? That, for me, is a philosophical question about searching for truth. That's a big breadcrumb.
Could it be one side has more of the truth and the other side is just fucking crazy?
Okay. So throw
it out there.
Your conclusion
possibility.
Is the media is on
what
the side
if the Republican side are just don't have any facts, and that's the issue?
So your conclusion is that
I mean, we're going to get into this right now. We need to end this. We need to end this.
This is how we're ending it. We're ending it with Big Bird's question.
Hypothetically, let's say the Republicans are saying a bunch of wrong things that aren't true. Let's just say, I'm not going to argue whether this is true or not, but let's just say conservatives are saying things that are just blatantly false, right? What should the media do? Should the media say, you know what, it's blatantly false, but hey, I'm going to both sides this thing? Or should they try to correct the truth? That's an interesting question to me. Like, obviously you think everything they say is true, so you're like, no, they're just biased. Fine, that could be happening. I just want to throw it as an idea to the conservatives. What if all of it is just wrong factually? And then that's why the media has to be biased in this way. I'm going to throw it out there as a possibility since we're exploring all possibilities right now.
Yeah, so the conclusion you have is that it's not that.
No, hypothetically, come on.
Hypothetically, it's not that the media is on the side of the Democrats for nefarious reasons. The media is on the side of the Democrats because the Democrats are just smarter and they're right.
Oh, no, because they're right. They're just saying because the Republicans are just not having facts.
Yes,
throw it out there as a troll opinion right now, because that would be quite hilarious if it was true. But let's not. I'm just trying to troll my conservative. I'm trying to troll all of you.
No troll. it's going to be hard for you to beat your troll from yesterday. It's going to be very hard.
What was my troll yesterday? Which
when
one?
you said from our post today about women being stupid.
Oh, about women being stupid.
Yeah.
Women aren't necessarily smart. Sorry, ladies. I'll say it again. You could be stupid.
As much as this
Anyways.
wasn't our goal to go into a philosophical debate, I ain't mad at it because I think that's more important. I think how we think and how we make decisions and having tough conversations surrounding that make us change how we think and how we make decisions is way more important than did Trump or Kamala lie. That's just my opinion.
All right.
People can disagree with me. So to next week, we're going to try to do it again.
Next
you guys
week,
are
let's just try to like break down, like, here's why I'm thinking this could happen. I'm going to try to break down how I come up with what is true and what isn't true. And just I do this subconsciously. So I'm going to have to think about it, about like, how do I decide what is true and what isn't? And I'd invite you to do the same. And we just present it and see if we agree, disagree, or whatever. You and me need a podcast where we're not just arguing. Also, we need one where we're like exploring more. You and I tend to argue a lot because we don't see things the same, but we'll figure it out.
Which is a part of it, right? Because we end every podcast, right? Let's think about it. Let's be really clear, bro. You started this podcast. You admitted you were salty as all get out. I started this podcast and still do. Feeling like
Gianmarco riled me up. I'm sorry, dude. You didn't hear that? Gianmarco was riling me up, so I had to calm down. I had to get. I was in a riled up mood. Sure.
You were already salty. I felt like dog crap. I felt like I got hit by a truck, and even still, through all of the contention of all of the opposition, here we are ending it on two completely different sides of the galaxy. Big Bird, being friends, right? Showing love, being homies. Gonna come back and do it again. So. One, yes, chat, pray for Jonah. He definitely needs it. Two,
I will take all the prayers. I love it when people pray for me. It makes me feel special.
Two, I think that even if we don't ever get on the same page, which I hope one day we do actually get on the same page.
We agree on some things, goddamn.
We do. I like the fact that we can disagree and still end BFFs. That's the best part.
We agree on some things.
Yeah, we do. We do. We'll make the small list available to you guys for download for free. It'll be a small list, but there is a list of things we agree upon. Like, do you eat green chili?
No, you
does Colorado?
Wait a minute, what do you mean? Like, actually, on the stuff we debate on, like, I agree that Trump was really good for foreign policy. Like, I do agree with that. You did do that.
Guys, you guys are fantastic. I appreciate y'all hanging out with us 2 days this week. Next week's going to be fun. We will probably not be talking about politics at all necessarily. Talking about the brain and how we make decisions. The mind and how we make the decisions, probably more accurately. I think it'll be good. You guys have a good week, guys. Like the podcast and share it to people. And
we're very soon going to start a new YouTube channel. This is going to soon switch over to the new YouTube channel because we want to actually make this into a big thing. Me and Keanu aren't fucking around. I don't think we've ever talked about like our vision for this podcast with anyone other than just us.
I don't think we have.
We're actually trying to make this into a podcast that gets hundreds of millions of views. Millions of views. Like,
that part.
We are actually trying to do something big here. So very soon we're gonna have a different YouTube channel podcast because I think us streaming on our own YouTubes is not long-term viable. But yeah, we got big dreams, we got big visions. So please like, comment, subscribe to the new YouTube channel we're gonna create. And yeah, we appreciate all of you guys watching. You guys are the best.
Appreciate y'all. Love y'all. Have a good week. See y'all next time. Peace.
Peace.